Good morning, Raptor Freaks. Lexi out here. It's Monday morning and it's family day. A lot of people have the day off today here in Canada as a statutory holiday. That's fantastic. Of course, today we are reacting to the All-Star Sunday game. That was a different format than ever before. And honestly, I thought the format worked to a degree, except for in some ways. But I thought that it did some of the things it was trying to do as far as bring out more competition and bring out more trying in the All-Stars. I did that. There were multiple different ways the NBA tried to cultivate this energy in the game yesterday, even with a short little comedian named Kevin Hart, egging them on and insulting them from the side of the court. Very innovative, Adam Silver. You go ahead and get a court jester to come out there on the court and literally egg them on by yelling at them. But, Kevin Hart did have some good things to say as far as y'all big men on Team Chuck, y'all need to stop shooting threes and go inside. I was like, preach, my guy. Preach, my guy. Yeah, no, I enjoyed the All-Star for the most part this weekend, but there were some problems this weekend also with it still. It's still a work in progress. And unfortunately, I think some of the good decisions that they made about the All-Star this weekend are going to get scrapped. And there's probably going to be go back to the drawing board. And it's going to be a totally different kind of thing next year, which is too bad because I kind of wish this had taken and it was more serious. Maybe it will still stick around. I don't know. But the early reviews are very mixed. And, it doesn't help when a jackass like Draymond Green is on the live broadcast completely putting down the whole format in the middle of the broadcast. I'm sure he got a little talking to from Adam Silver and NBA execs. I would hope so. Man, you're hurting the brand, bro. You're a negative ninny. And all I love what Charles said to him. He was exactly right. Your generation screwed this thing up. So you ain't got nothing to say, Draymond Green. Charles Barkley is exactly right. I don't know how many announcing teams you need for an all-star game. You got like 4 announced teams. You got one on the court, one at the sideline, and one outside that's a bunch of villains. It's like, why do you need so many announced teams? You're going to bounce it around all over the place? I could have done without the one that Vince was on. Not that I'm hating on Vince. I'm just hating on the other 3 guys that he is with. But, yeah, it was a weird game. There was a lot of good things about it that were very good. But there were also some things that were absolutely manipulated. Let's not get it twisted. They script righted Shaq's team to win last night. And I'll tell you exactly how they did it and made it so it would happen. It's very simple. We'll go over it on the reaction today. So we're reacting to the All-Star game. That's what we're doing today. We got all the other stuff if you want to do it. Instagram, check, classic card, Reddit reaction. You got all that kind of stuff on the stream today. So welcome to Raptor Freak stream. Let's go. 2 hours of Raptors fun and NBA talk. So let's see what's going on here. Trevor J's first in with his words of wisdom. And he's saying a fool sees the downfall of another man as a topic of discussion, but the wise sees it as a warning to himself. Cautionary tales are all around us all the time. And sometimes we're too proud to see that maybe we could have that problem happen. We think, oh, no, it never happened to me, just them. But no, this is true. Don't think that you are inoculated from hardships or things that befall some people. And sometimes you may look at the other people and judge them from afar and kind of talk about them behind their back when they're going through something. God forbid you ever have to go through that also and feel what they feel right now. I'm just saying, it's really easy to look at situations from the outside and talk about it, maybe gossip. But, man, you don't know all the story. In some ways, it's better to just keep your mouth shut. And maybe some of these stories are also a good tale of caution for you and what you shouldn't do in your life. Yeah. Good words of wisdom, Trevor. I appreciate it. Trevor's saying congratulations to AJ Lawson on winning the Up Next Game Championship. Yeah, I appreciate that it was on YouTube and that you could go back and watch it. The clip is still there. The clip is an hour and 40 minutes, and it's the same format as the All-Star game. This is the thing. They did this format 3 different places. They did it for the Rising Stars Challenge on Friday night. They did it yesterday during the day for the G League Up Next game, and they did it for the All-Star game. All 3 of them had 4 teams battling in a single elimination tournament with 2 semifinals and a final. And the target scores were all different all over the place. In G League, they didn't want to even give them 40 points. They played to 35 points, in the first 2 rounds and then 25 in the last round. So it was very, very limited. And that may have been one of the biggest gripes about the All-Star format is it's just not enough points. It's, in some ways people are stat heads. I understand how the stats for the All-Star game are not able to be used with the stats from all the All-Star games from before because it's not the same format. And in some ways, the guy who won the All-Star game MVP last night, Steph Curry, only scored 12 points in the last final game of the tournament. I get it. You guys are used to having like 8 guys score like 50 points in this crazy no defense marathon stupid All-Star game that everybody hates at this point. Well, you can't have both. In some ways, we got to figure this out. I think that they don't have it exactly right. They could maybe put the number higher, like Trevor was suggesting last night in the stream, that maybe that number shouldn't be 40 for the All-Star games, but maybe 50. Some people even said make them play to 100. I don't know. They might get tired, especially since they only have eight-man teams. They don't have huge rosters like a regular NBA roster to go down to like 12 or 15. So, I think that the sweet spot is to increase it, though. I think Trevor's right. And I think that would help the game is if the target score was a little bit higher and it could allow for a little bit more time to play. It seemed like the games were very fast. And in some ways, that kind of makes you feel like, oh, we're not really seeing a whole game. The other problem is that they took too many breaks in the middle of the games all over the place. I get it. It's All-Star weekend. You got to do advertising. You got to do concerts, little concerts with E40 and stuff like that. Maybe a little dumb little skit with Mr. Beast where a guy has a shootout with Damian Lillard. You got to add little add-ins in the middle, but where you place them is important. And a really big fail that they did was, and this should have had its own dedicated whole segment with no feelings of rushedness. The tribute to the Inside the NBA crew in the middle of the last final All-Star game match was just very poor timing. They should have done that before the game started between Shaq and Chuck's team. They should have done it before that because in some ways I was like, all right, I guess maybe they're trying to surprise them and get them teary-eyed, come out there and give them the fishing tackle and make them go fishing like they made everybody did for years. In some ways, these guys are icons. These guys are legends. These guys are basically one of the most important things about the NBA product for the last 30 years. And y'all are going to sandwich them in the middle of the final round of the All-Star game last night. That's not due that they need. They need much more dedicated to them as far as this shouldn't be like everybody's distracted and wondering when's the game going to start again. No, let's sandwich in a Hall of Famer crew honoring and send them off retirement in the middle of the game. It's really, really stupid, really dumb choice by the producers of that show to line up the thing. I thought that the whole thing was done haphazardly. Some of it just didn't make sense. All of a sudden, Kevin Hart's coming out there yelling. I guess they were trying to make it seem like, oh, it's all really, you don't know what's going to happen. It's Monday Night Raw. Anybody could come out all of a sudden. Kevin Hart's here. Oh, my gosh. He's got interest music and a promo just like he's a WWE wrestler. I just feel like the distractions and all that stuff in some ways hurt the game being taken more seriously. And also, it hurt the players playing in it because what is this warm-up, cool-down, red light, green light shit? Seriously. And this is how they manipulate the game. Think about it. Chuck's team, the Global Stars, played Kenny's team at like 8:20 in the evening in the first game. And that game was over by 9. When did they take the court to play Shaq's team, the Chuck's team? Like around 10:30 almost. So they sat on their asses for almost 2 hours between the first time they played and when they played later. Of course they're going to be horrible. Of course they're not going to be exactly sharp. Imagine if they had done this shit to Shaq's team instead. Those older guys, they would have been even worse. So that is exactly how the script writing happened, is the ordering of the events and really making a huge amount of time between the first game for the Global Stars and the finals against Shaq and his team. That's manipulation. In fact, they tested it on Friday night with the Rising Stars. That phenomena happened in some ways where it's like if the game's too long and you're too cooled off and there's another game in between and you got to play in the finals, I'm telling you right now, the team that plays the second game of the semifinals and wins and plays straight into the next round of the finals has the advantage. And that was proven in all three of the tournaments this weekend, as far as they have the best advantage because they're already warmed up. They're playing it more like a normal NBA game where there's a halftime and boom, we come out and play right again. But that team that plays in the first semifinal and then has to play in the final against the other team, they have to sit for a whole entire game and they cool off. That is the biggest way they manipulated things last night. And the other way we knew it was totally scripted was the call of Brian Anderson. Dude, you're a horrible announcer, man. You were all in on script writing and telling the script because you told it. And the funny thing was they kept failing. He's like, oh, they're definitely going to score now and win at the end of the finals with Chuck and Shaq's team. Oh, they're definitely going to win now on this. But then they wouldn't. They miss. Dame Lillard miss. And Sengun will get the rebound, and they're coming back down the other way, and the Global Stars are still alive. Man, that dude sounded like such a homer and such a bullshit artist that knew the script, Brian Anderson. So maybe call the call a little more unbiased and not such a kiss in the ass of Team Shaq and the OGs and trying to hold. And why would they do this? Well, CIA, who knows? There could be U.S. governments telling them, you guys can't make a USA team lose to global team because in some ways the perception of basketball and who's in charge and who has the best players is in jeopardy because the international players are catching up, as Candace said. And then who turned around? Reggie Miller and said, no, they've actually passed us now. And Shaq got really mad. It's almost like this American pride thing is like, oh, we got to make sure we win no matter what. If they had lost the Global Stars, that may have sent the wrong message. So they had to make sure the Shaq's team won for America's dominance in basketball globally with some bullshit in that narrative. And so they submarined them. They submarined them and set up Chuck's team to fail. And you know, they humiliated Chuck too during that game. They came out flat. They got blown out in the beginning of the game. And the whole time they're saying, oh, Chuck's team is horrible. Chuck's team is awful. No, they're not. Look at that fucking team. You going to tell me the team that's got Nikola Jokic, Victor Wembanyama, Cat, SGA is a horrible team? No, bullshit, motherfucker. That was a dream team to me. In fact, I thought that team was one of the best teams I've ever seen in my life put together in any form of basketball. Dream teams, international teams, whatever. You're talking to me about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikola Jokic, Karl Anthony Towns, Donovan Mitchell, Pascal Siakam, and Victor Wembanyama all on the same team. That is an amazing team. I don't get all starstruck about the OGs because I see old people like James Harden and LeBron who didn't even want to play, selfishly didn't play. Some people say, oh, he had a foot injury. Nah, I'm with Kendrick Perkins. It was selfish of LeBron. He should have suited up, and even if they didn't put him in the game, he should have been named and put in there or whatever and involved in it because in some ways it's just a matter of him putting the jersey on and taking the pictures with people like James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Dame Lillard, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant. So, man, they had to uphold a perception that the United States dominates basketball globally, and, well, they'll put on a show and make it a sham. Look at how protective they got when Reggie Miller said, oh, I think that the global players are better than the U.S. players now. Look at how quickly somebody shut that down and tried to come at him for saying that. Well, we don't know what's true. And unfortunately, we couldn't get pure contest last night without manipulation because there was, trust me, the script was written. And that, you know what, because the script was written in this way for this reason, you ruined the whole idea of changing the format, Adam Silver, to make it competitive and real and more interesting. Because honestly, we can tell when y'all wrote the script. I love watching pure basketball when two teams show up and we don't know who's going to win and they get to compete and they decide it on the court. But if you're going to write the script days before the event even happens and you're going to try and play it out over to us and we're rubes, no, I'm watching enough WWE to understand booking and booking matches and booking finishes. And that's what y'all did last night. Y'all booked it this way. And I hate it because the format is awesome. I think the format would work if y'all wouldn't fuck around with manipulating who's going to win it. And that's probably the worst thing about it, honestly, to me, is that y'all manipulated it. I thought that the format works. We got people going after each other. They're saying, oh, they're blocking shots. They're playing defense. They're getting up and down the court. There's actually an all-star game happening. There's competition. Well, that was the biggest goal for this All-Star weekend. So we checked that off, but they still screwed it up because they had to write the script. I wish they just let them play and let them figure it out. I have to give a big, huge props and a big, huge clap for Eric Dalen. Yeah. We saw our all-star refs last night were Trey Maddox, Kevin Scott, and Eric Dalen. 3 refs that have been very kind to the Toronto Raptors this season in the NBA. And, well, Eric Dalen, the big tight end from Minnesota, he called an 8-second call on Steph Curry at the end of the game. And I was like, bravo, my man. That wasn't that ballsy and badass, because that's what it was exactly. He took so long soaking up the crowd and didn't come over a half court. Well, they're still reffing like they do for NBA games. And Eric Dalen said, 8-second violation. Give the ball to the global stars. And Chuck smiled real big because that's the rules. And Steph Curry couldn't say anything about it. He's like, oh, man, that's right. But I know they wanted to have that moment. But I thought that was hilarious that the ref did that, because in some ways that wasn't in the NBA script right there. That was just Eric Dalen doing his job. So kudos to you, man. You get like a hero award for calling that 8-second call at the end of the game last night. I was so impressed with that, Eric. I'm serious. In some ways, I love you, man. You're like one of my favorite refs now because you did that last night. Yeah, that, the refs for the game are the all-stars of the year. You get to ref the all-star game. In some ways, that's kind of a low-key nod that you are actually one of the best refs in the league that year. That's a reward because these guys get paid for that game, and to get that extra job, an extra all-star bonus. Well, in some ways, Eric Dalen, Trey Maddox, and Kevin Scott were the all-star refs for this season, reffing in that game last night. A couple other low-key refs that were in the other events around the weekend that were getting same kind of kudos, because it's not just the big game. There's the skills competition and the rising stars, and even the dunk competition and the three-point shootout have referees for them. And those were our guy, Jason Goldenberg, is one of the best refs in the league because he got rewarded and he was there. And he's the ref that has the highest percentage win for the Raptors. Danielle Scott, also at the skills competition, and Musa Dagger. These are the refs that are getting praise for their job that they're doing in the league. And I like to check on that. It's just like the finals. It's just like the playoffs. Certain refs and certain levels of how they did in the year, they get to ref those games. They're rewards. And, well, doing the All-Star Weekend is a reward. And those 6 refs that I named were honored with getting that opportunity this weekend. And that was fantastic. Yeah. I'm really happy about AJ Lawson and his team, Braxton, winning the little Up Next tournament. He was on a team that had Kevon Harris, who ended up winning the MVP of the tournament, former Raptors 905. Kevon Harris, currently a College Park Skyhawk, getting the trophy for MVP of this tournament. Braxton did really good. I saw that AJ had some very nice three-pointers and attacked to the rim very, very well. He's very fluid in the game and very much contributed to help his team win. Some of those other teams were very formidable, teams with Moses Brown on it, and Jeffrey Doughton Jr. and Justin Champagny battling with them in these games. And, well, they got stuff done, and they took care of it. In fact, they were not the favorites. They beat the team that won last year and won the finals, and that was fantastic. So kudos to AJ Lawson and the winning team from the Up Next G League All-Star game, and good job. He was one of the main guys who contributed, but alas, he didn't get the MVP. But he is a champion from the Up Next weekend. It's fantastic. Trevor's saying that Cleveland is going to get the next WNBA team in 2028. They will be called, and Trevor, I know that you wrote this wrong because you probably said it into it. That is not the right name because Houston has the Rockets. No, they were going to be a team that used to be in the WNBA, and I remember them very well, the Cleveland Rockers. Rockers, like you're a rocking chair or you're somebody who listens to rock and roll music. The team is the Cleveland Rockers, not the Rockets. And I want to make sure that's right. So, yeah, they're going to bring back a team that folded in Cleveland in the WNBA. The Cleveland Rockers is what they're saying. So they're going to revive a franchise. It's not a new franchise. They've played a lot of years already. So this is not going to be a new expansion team. In some ways, it's just going to be revisiting and bringing back a team that went defunct for a while. I like this. The Cleveland Rockers name was kind of a cool one. They were an okay team back in the day, in the very beginning of the WNBA. And, well, the league's expanding back again. In some ways, it's a team that's going to be close to the tempo. So, we won't have to travel too far to go to Cleveland to play the Cleveland Rockers. Tempo versus Rockers. Well, it's getting musical in here. That's right. Trevor's saying the next All-Star game will be held at the Intuit Dome in L.A. Steve Ballmer's new building that opened this year for the Clippers. And they're going to have All-Star Weekend there next year. That totally makes sense. In some ways, this year is the showing off year for Steve Ballmer, the shiny new toys and his Intuit Dome and the big, huge wall, the screen that does 3D graphics and all the cool stuff in that building. Well, they're going to show it off for All-Star Weekend. It's bright and shiny and new. And this year may have been too soon to get organized to do it. But, of course, Adam Silver is going to get on it and get in there as soon as he can. And next year is the time. In some ways, it's good for the community of L.A., who's had all kinds of problems with wildfires and all kinds of crazy stuff happening there. Well, they're going to have All-Star Weekend in L.A. again. And, well, better than Toronto, especially with the snow we got right now. Better than Toronto. Yeah, that's cool. I like that they're going to do it there, and they should. That's a new building, and that totally makes sense that they'll do that, the All-Star game next year in L.A. on the Clippers, not for the Lakers, in the Clippers' own building. No shared building. This will be straight up the Clippers All-Star Weekend, and in some ways that's special because they've been sharing a building with the Lakers for so long. That's another part of it. Yeah, Trevor's saying the NBA is going to do the big 3 format, then the score should be first to 50 wins. Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying earlier, what you said. I don't know if this is the big 3 format. I get what you're saying. That's the 3-on-3. No, you mean with the mini tournament and the way they're doing this with the point goal instead of the time. I agree. I thought they went too quick and they underestimated how fast these NBA players can put baskets in. And 50 seems like a more reasonable score. Now, if the teams aren't as good and it's like the G League one or the Rising Stars one, that is what, they maybe need to have it lower. But maybe that's the prestige of it. Is the Rising Stars one, your first rounds, you're going to play to 40. Then the final round, you play to 35 like they did on Friday night. And then on Sunday, you got to play to 40 and 50 in the early rounds. And then you have to play to 40 in the last round. They got to figure it out. And also, I'd like them not to scrap this team thing. I know another thing that they were critical about was these Rising Stars playing on All-Star Sunday, as they're not All-Stars. Bullshit. They earned the right to play there. And you know what? NBA analysts for TNT and people that were covering the game last night, y'all shitting all over the product and the players in your league. Well, this is a big part of the problem from this past generation of basketball, is that there's so much negging of the product and what's going on mainly by Draymond Green last night, that you actually make the product worse through your own product because you have people you're broadcasting that are actually putting down the product and the players during the broadcast. There's no reason to put down Keontae George, Zach Edey, Ryan Dunn, and Dalton Connect like y'all were doing last night. They earned their right to get their ticket to play against Team Shaq last night. But still, the announcers felt like putting them down and say, well, they're not actually all-stars. They shouldn't be out here. Well, motherfucker, they're playing them pretty close, and they gave them a good scare. And honestly, in some ways, they might have been able to beat them in a little bit of other ways happening things. So it's like, why build the product up or try and sell it to us if you're going to have people on your broadcast that are going to piss all over it while you're delivering it? This is what I'm saying. You train the fans to disrespect and put down players and look down on them by your announcers' attitudes. No wonder people are so toxic in fan nations. They learn it from the announcers and the broadcast crew that handle the NBA because they shit all over the product in the middle of it. Draymond Green took a big, fat, smelly load of Dookie all over the All-Star game last night on their broadcast. How the hell do you expect the game to get over and take as the new format when you got that jackass shooting his mouth off in the middle of the broadcast like that? Y'all should fire Draymond. I know this is the last time TNT going to do the All-Star game ever because they're done with the NBA. Well, hopefully this man doesn't have a broadcasting contract after this with anyone else. Because seriously, Draymond Green should not be doing media after his playing career. That motherfucker can go do ads. He can go do prank shows with Anthony Davis. I don't give a shit. But he shouldn't be on broadcast as some sort of commentator. Because honestly, Adam Silver, he hurts your product every time he opens his mouth. whether it's just him being himself or him just literally putting down your product. He's hurting your product either way. Yeah, so I would say that, you want to get a successful all-star. Well, don't fucking have negative announcers coming in like this and doing this. Is this some sort of transparency that you want to say, okay, Dame Lillard, how did you think that the format went? You're asking the players in the middle of the game in interviews, and they're on the spot in front of a live crowd on the court. Well, I think that they just want to have more competition and get us to play harder, so they're trying stuff. And I like it. It's like, okay, you're showing us the open process of what you're doing with the All-Star game in the format, and you're workshopping it and even getting feedback in the middle of the game. But then you're going to script write the ending anyway. Telling you, in some ways, they made it so that Shaq's team would win no matter what. Y'all need to understand that. Seriously. And it's not even about the talent of their team. And somebody say, oh, the talent of the team is just so good they did that. No, think about what I'm saying. Chuck's team had to play their game so early in the night, and how many concerts and little in-between things besides the other game did they have between that. And it's not like on Friday night when Grady's team played in the first game, lost, and their opponent got to go in the final round. Well, there was only one game in between. There was very little in-between stuff. And the team that played in the first round was Zach Edey and Dalton Connect that won the thing, actually had a pretty decent turnaround where they could get back into it and still win the whole thing because there was less time between the first semifinal and the final game. And they stretched it out. Oh, my gosh, with all that stuff. And I'm not saying that stuff wasn't good. I'm not saying that stuff wasn't part of the all-star that's supposed to be there, the advertising and the music and the homage to the city that the all-star game's in, the Bay Area. All that's important, but all in its right order and its right time. And when you shuffle it up and mix it up like it's cards, well, you're getting things out of order and you're stretching things out and you're making it very gamed for Team Shaq to beat Chuck because there's so much time in between. It's like an hour and 40 minutes between the two games for Team Chuck last night. Seriously. Another thing I'll say about this, part of the reason why Team Chuck lost is Nikola. See, all right, out of all the All-Stars, a lot of them got the memo about this year. A lot of them got the pep talk. A lot of them got Kevin Hart's presence and him being a little talking all over the place why his purpose was there. But Nikola didn't get it. He didn't get the memo. And in some ways, you know what? If he's just that way as far as things, just give him the all-star, but don't play him because he's not taking all-star seriously. He never has. And he is the epitome of part of the problem, seriously. Because listen, I can't fault the guy. He plays in the NBA. He plays at a certain high level for the Nuggets, and he does so many good things for them in winning ways. Well, he does everything the opposite in the all-star game. He fucks off. He doesn't take it seriously, and he doesn't play defense, and he's honestly a losing player. In fact, I'm going to blame Nikola for why they lost because the dude just doesn't try. And he didn't try in the All-Star game last night, and he brought down the global team. In fact, I said before the final round even started, because I saw how he played in the first semifinal, that dude doesn't need to be playing. Take him out, Chuck, because he will submarine your team. Nikola Jokic is not trying this All-Star game. He's half-assing. He's turning the ball over. He's missing shots. He's not catching passes. He's garbage in this format. He may be the MVP 3 times in the NBA and playing in regular games, but in this, he does not take it seriously in the least, and he does no business being out there if you're actually going to try and be competing. And you should have played Victor from the start, and you should have just let Nikola sit on the bench and watch the damn final game. That was a huge mistake. If y'all done that differently, look, Victor came in off the bench and got 11 in the final game because he was trying his ass off. He really wanted to win, and that's the difference. You have one guy, a 21-year-old kid from France, busting his ass, trying his hardest to win the All-Star game, and then you got old-ass Serbian guy who's just fucking out there smiling and goofing around. He doesn't give a shit. I'm telling you, that was one of the biggest keys. And they're at the opposite ends of competing in the All-Star game. Victor takes this seriously, and this makes it good for the future because he is the future. Let's not get it twisted. Victor's going to be going to these things every year now, and he could be the leader that brings the competition back in the All-Star game because of who he is and what he can do. But, yeah, Jokic, what a waste of time out there. And the sad thing was he rubbed off on Cat, in the final round too, and Cat started getting lazy too. Well, if Nikola's not going to try, I'm going to stop running around and trying to guard people too. So yeah, those are factors right there. You need good leadership on these teams. And Jokic is a horrible leader in all-star format. He just doesn't need to be playing. I'll tell you right now, if Luka was there too, he'd be the same thing as Nikola. Seriously, they're both lazy in the all-star game. They don't give a shit. They won't take it seriously. So, man, in some ways that made me mad. And of course, Siakam got a quick hook in the final round. Didn't get to play as much in the second game, but he did factor into the first one when they beat Kenny's team in the first match of this all-star game last night. That Siakam was active. It's weird, that roster, he's like the only forward on it. They're all centers and guards, and then Siakam, the only forward on Chuck's team. And it's like, well, he's going to get to play a lot being the only forward on the team. And yeah, he was out there. He was glue guy. He was doing a little bit of offensive rebounding and just kind of being available in his position out on the court. I thought that team was badass. You had Donovan Mitchell and Cat hitting threes in the first game and just looking solid. And then you had SGA, and they didn't even use SGA as hard as they could have. They could have gone to him way, way more, and he could have been more of a star. But he was muted out in the final round and not really paid attention to. In some ways, he wasn't given a chance to shine as a Canadian star and probably the MVP for this year in the NBA. To shine and help the global stars win. No, it was a script. It was a script. And you can tell by the way Chuck was the guy in charge, because Chuck is the butt of the joke for the inside the NBA crew. He's the one that gets played the fool. And in some ways, they wanted to play him the fool, and they humiliated him in the final round when the OGs came out and took a lead of like 11-1 at the very beginning of that final round. And they just dumped all over Chuck and the global stars, all for the narrative that USA's got to be number one. I'm telling you, this is CIA shit. This is like there's probably people in the American government that are saying you cannot let American basketball power wane. You have to show that we are still tops, and you got to crush the global team. We cannot let the global world think that they can compete with us. I'm telling you, it's that kind of shit deep down that determined the all-star outcome last night. Those old guys are great. They're legends, sure, but they got handhelding, and you can see it. And I told you exactly how they did it. I told you how they exactly did. I think 50 points would be a good start. Now, do you guys think they're going to scrap this whole format now? I hope they don't, because I like the 14 thing, and I totally like the thing connected to the Friday night. I think that really works really, really well, honestly. So I don't know. I know some people are going to say just go back to the old format and do it. Well, you're going to be back to square one, because the old format is not going to encourage these guys to play hard. It really isn't. It's been proven. It's been ruined. And Charles is exactly right. The LeBron, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green generation ruined the All-Star game. He's exactly right. The All-Star game was given to Charles by people like Dr. J and Cedric Maxwell and Oscar Robertson, and he took care of it in his era with Michael and Isaiah and Magic and Bird. And, well, they passed it on to the next era, Vince and Kobe. And, well, what that next people got past, LeBron and Kevin, well, they fucked it all up. They fucked it all up, the All-Star game. And that's why Draymond Green's biting comments about this format, they're valid, because you are part of the problem, you idiot, is what I'm saying right there. Yeah, let's go. Fiercey's here. Good to see MJ on a Monday morning. Happy family day. Morning, fam. Happy Monday. My All-Star weekend rating is 7 out of 10. Last year was a 6, so slightly better this time around. Would I spend money to go? Depending on if there is heavy Raptors representation. Yeah, also probably depending on where the game is and what the ticket and the price of the whole trip would be. Yeah, I don't know if I'd ever want to go to an All-Star weekend other than if I was in Toronto and I just happened to be easy to go to. But otherwise, I'm not going to travel out of the country to go to one. No, not me. Not me at all. That's a pretty good ranking, 7 out of 10. You're very generous last year. Honestly, 6 out of 10 last year. I would have said last year, if I really was ranking, the last 2 years of All-Star were like 2s to me, 2 out of 10s. This year, I think it was about a 6 for me. I'm a little bit harsher, I guess. And, I liked, all right, I'm going to go over each event. I thought the Rising Stars Challenge was really good, and the format worked excellently for that one. The format worked. It worked in all the different places except in the final round of the All-Star game. It worked in all of them. It worked on Friday night. The Rising Stars Challenge was fantastic. The Celebrity Game was absolute shit.
It was an F grade. It was the problem with what's wrong with the NBA weekend is it was the that. So you got one good event, one bad event on Friday night. And then on Saturday, I think the skills competition is just garbage still. In some ways, the thing that the Spurs did was hilarious, and I think it was awesome. But I still think that that competition is kind of skeezy and not exactly right. Sometimes it's about who's doing it. Like if you have Steve Nash out there doing the skills competition, it's a little more bona fide, or Kobe or something like that. I feel like the people who are doing the skills competition weren't the right people. Like I wouldn't have picked those two French rookies. I wouldn't have had a Cleveland team there either. I would have picked a different teams. I like the Wemby and Chris Paul team, and the Golden State team's got to be there because of the hosts. But I wouldn't have had the other two teams. I would have made them more exciting than just Cleveland, who did win, Donovan and Evan Mobley. But it's not that exciting in some ways. And the French rookies, they were abysmal. And why are they there? They could have made better teams, honestly. The Spurs team was right, even though they cheated, because you have to have Victor in that. And him with Chris Paul, that's a fantastic team. And the Warriors team, it's fine. I don't know if I'd have Moody as one of them. Draymond, one of them, sure. I maybe would have put somebody else with him, like Podziemski or somebody else from the Warriors. I just don't feel like Moses Moody's that exciting. In fact, he's one of the worst Warriors on their team, like as far as a player. I know when we played him, he was a disaster when they came to Toronto. And then the three-point shootout is always going to be the three-point shootout. It's going to be exactly what it is no matter what. If there's anything that's just like standardly always the same, it's the three-point shootout pretty much. But in some ways, it's boring. If it's not as exciting, it was a little exciting this year with Buddy Hield on the last rack. But the three-point shootout is one standard set thing, and it's necessary, and it's a history thing, and it just perseveres as it is, and it's very trackable years to compare in different ways because they don't change it too much. They do change it though with the extra starry ball and the money racks and all that stuff. They've changed it since when people like Craig Hodges were winning it. And then the dunk competition, well, it's been a work in progress for a while. And honestly, because of Mac McClung, it's in a good place, but it could get in a very good place next year, even more so, if they follow through with John Morant and Giannis coming. Now, Giannis said yesterday that his kid stole his phone and tweeted that he would do the dunk contest, that he didn't actually tweet that. He's lying. He's just goofing around. I think he had second thoughts. He said, I'd like to do this, but now he's thinking, I don't know if I want to. Although then he said he's just a Riddler, I guess. He did say, if I'm healthy and I'm able to play in the All-Star and do the dunk competition, I'll do it next year. So, okay, you're confusing me. Did you tweet that you want to do the dunk contest? No, my child did it. I was like, oh, wait, well, why are you saying now you would do it if you're healthy next year? I don't know. Either way, the dunk competition's on their way back to being okay, and Mac McClung's a huge reason why. The All-Star game was better this year than the years in the last couple years. This format worked. There was competition. There was actual basketball play in it. And if that was the one goal that they had for the All-Star game this week, that was successful. But as I said, once again, if y'all are going to determine it the winner and have it all script written, don't try and act like you did. And also, you're lying to us, Adam Silver, that you did not know anything about the Doncic trade until after it happened. You are so full of shit. So, yeah, there's no way that you're in charge of this league. You're supposed to know everything on it. And you coming out and trying to tell us that you were blindsided by the Doncic trade, Luka trade, just like everybody else, is absolute horse crap. Absolute horse crap. I don't buy that for a minute. You're in charge of $1 billion venture that you have a lot of stake, and it goes the way your leadership goes. And well, I'm telling you right now, absolute horse crap. You're trying to tell us that you had no idea that Luka was going to get traded to the Lakers. You're lying, bro. You are lying. That is too important in too many different ways, and it has all the fingerprints in the world that you are desperate to try and get ratings up. And you moved a very popular young star to the Lakers, a very popular franchise, to generate more interest in the NBA again. Yeah, let's not get this twisted, man. Don't lie to us. We're not stupid, Adam Silver. All right, you're like talking to us like we have low intelligence. No, I can see right through this. Don't act like you didn't know. Seriously, just come clean with it. Don't lie to us, man. All right, let's keep going. Let's see. Fiercely saying indifferent. Hang on. All right, I skipped ahead. In different categories such as Rising Stars, the actual All-Star game, and also 3-point contest. Yeah, I thought that some of them are good, some of them are I think seriously, I really like the format. I think the format is good. They put the point total up a little higher, then you get a little bit more points generated, you know. In some ways, that's where you get in trouble for possibly having where people get fatigued and they stop going all out. Also, they don't want to have them too strenuous because that's when injuries are more likely to happen. So the little brief games where they can play all out in short periods of time instead of playing a full 48-minute game that can be very tiring, just like a regular NBA game. That's part of the reason why the score should be kind of low, is because it'll prevent any kind of injuries because there's an increase in competition because they're not out there as long. I think that it's dangerous though with the layoff that Team Chuck had to do because how do our NBA players used to play in the first half of a game at 7:30 and then going back into the locker room for an hour and a half and then playing the second half like at 10:30? No. No, and that's the big problem with the format there. In some ways, they got to tighten it up and make it closer together so that there's not so much of a layoff. Either that or they need to give these guys a real warm up before and not just bring them back out on the court after an E40 concert's done. So they need to tweak it. I think the plan is right, but honestly, I think that they're going to scrap it because there seems to be a lot of negativity towards the 4-team point total system, and they want a shot clock and a game clock instead with just 2 teams and not all these teams. And honestly, I disagree with them. I think that this would work, and this is why there's competition this year. You go back the other way, you're going to throw all of what was good about this year out the window, and we're just going to be back where we started, is what I'm saying right now. Yeah. Fiercely saying Team Chuck playing hard the first time around, then be so lackadaisical against the OGs. Well, that's a symptom of exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, your body is willing, but can it do it if it's not warmed up properly? And how often is Siakam playing a half of a game and then waiting 2 hours to almost to play the second half of the game? It's no wonder that they came out completely flat and could not score. Meanwhile, the OGs were warmed up because they came straight from their game against the Rising Stars. It's a complete advantage, Fiercey. So don't blame them and don't say, why did they come out lackadaisical and they didn't try in the second game? No, that was a setup. That was a setup. Anybody that would go through that in the kind of like rigmarole of ups and downs and energy for yourself. Yeah, it's not normal in any kind of way. These NBA players don't train to play all out for 20 minutes and then sit for 2 hours and then have to play all out for 20 minutes later. That's just not the right time interval. The halftime's very short in the NBA these days, and the halftime for them on Team Chuck last night was extremely long, is what I'm saying. Yeah, that's it right there. Fiercely saying happy for AJ Lawson and also Grady, who sincerely got the exposure deserved. He played really well. Yeah, we're proud of Grady's representation. He looked good in the Rising Stars Challenge. He got an A from ESPN, so he must have been doing something right. So, yeah, let's look at the grades from ESPN for last night, and kind of I'll look at a couple of them and see how I feel about it. Y'all, I thought it was hilarious that Steph Curry won the MVP because, honestly, it was ambiguous. There were about 3 people that could have won the MVP last night. And, honestly, I thought that Dame Lillard actually had a case for it. We know that he's won MVP recent years for the All-Star game. But yeah, he had a case for it because he hit some really key threes in their first game, but he didn't score anything in the last game, in the final game. So that probably hurt him there. But he was really important in the first game. In fact, he won the winner to close the game out against the Rising Stars, who were very much coming back and trying to take that game and steal it from them. And I was proud of them. Guys like Ryan Dunn looked so good last night. The defense and the scoring by Ryan Dunn was on blast. And see, that's what I'm talking about. You want to develop young stars in this league? Well, don't get rid of this format because those rising stars will come up and they'll do something. And I'm telling you, that will light a fire under OG team like Shaq's. It's like, look, do you want to lose these guys? They're not even all-stars. You better be trying and playing. That will get the competition going. You don't have that entity there, and you don't have that carrot for them on Friday night to play all out. Well, maybe you don't get this competition in these little mini tournaments. So in some ways, you got to keep it this way with if you're going to do this format where a team comes from Friday night and gets to compete like this. I think this format was genius, honestly. It just wasn't executed properly because they had the script right. And man, if we'd actually seen a genuine like competition where the battle at the end was like, oh, this is a real battle, and it could have gone either way, that would have made it go over even better, Adam Silver. But man, you had to have control, and you had to make sure the U.S. won no matter what. I can tell that's what happened there. I can tell that's what happened. But it's really good exposure for those young players. Like Ryan Dunn made his name for himself a little bit this weekend because of how he played last night. And, Dalton Connect, Zach Edey, they're getting good exposure before they're even all-stars. And in some ways, Zach Edey can say he played in his first all-star game, even though he wasn't an all-star. That's kind of cool in some ways. Yeah. Let's see. Trevor J saying Chuck international players did not want to win that game. Too many outside shots and not driving the hoop. I think they got lazy. Yeah. I think they got lazy. And like I said, Nikola was the ringleader on that. He set the tone for that. I'd much rather it had the ball in the hands more of Trae Young and Donovan Mitchell. Well, not Donovan. Donovan was lame in the final game too. More of Trae Young and SGA directing things, with Victor just being that active, huge, crazy freak of nature, just making shots go back in and just doing whatever he wants because nobody can stop him. And honestly, they had every chance to win. They could have. But like I said, they were flat, and they spotted them 10 points right at the beginning of the final game. And in some ways, that was the cushion. That was enough for that kind of caliber team with Steph Curry and all them on it to, not let them come back. So the being jumped on right away because of the energy not being there, they had to build it up again because they've been sitting so long. So it's not that they didn't want to win. It's just that they woke up too late. And in some ways, I don't agree with them playing Jokic from the start because he set the tone of being lazy. And he was the leader of that team that submarined them in the final round was Nikola. If SGA had more of a say in being the leader and being the trend setter or the point setter for the Team Chuck last night, they may have had a different outcome because the competitiveness and the drive and the energy would have been there. Not with lazy-ass Joker just kind of out there smiling and goofing and not really taking it seriously. So that was a big part of it right there. So in the grades that I was getting into, they gave this was really funny. They gave the trophy to Steph Curry. He scored 20 points between both the games. He got 12 in the last game. And, he made that crazy half-court shot. In some ways, that was a little bit like the normal NBA kind of all-star hijinks with some lobs and dunks and half-court shots and stuff. He wowed the crowd with that one. That was cool. And they didn't have to really decide who to give it to. They only decided because of the home court, and it's in San Francisco. So let's give it to the Warriors guy. Because Jason Tatum – and I love this because in some ways this is just like the finals with Jaylen Brown getting the MVP instead of him. In some ways, Jason Tatum was robbed again last night, and I think it's so funny. Jason actually was trying to get the MVP hard. And in the final game, you noticed he was scoring like crazy. He scored 15 in the final game for the Team Shaq. And he probably thought he was going to get MVP. In fact, when they were about to announce it, he looked like he was coming up to get it, but they didn't announce his name. They announced Steph Curry's. And I thought that was hilarious. If anything, this format's fun because it makes it ambiguous who's going to be the MVP. And there may be a little bit of like kind of like a pageant queen kind of thing where there's a couple of people thinking they're going to get it, and then only one gets it, and the other ones are all distraught and upset. Because, he didn't look too happy after that. And he did have a good case to get it. I was saying to myself, man, don't give the MVP to Jason Tatum. Please don't do that. And they didn't. They gave it to Curry, and I was very happy about that. And Jason looked like he got screwed over, honestly. He did in some ways. I thought that was hilarious. So, they gave him an A. They did really well to be there and did that. Nobody will complain about Curry's MVP selection, but if I were strictly going off production, Tatum, who won the award in 2023, would have been the deserving choice. That's what ESPN's writing on here. They think that he should have won the MVP in the copy on here. That's hilarious. Yeah, LeBron not playing is an issue because in some ways he had a streak of playing in these all-star games that he just broke. I wonder if he's done, man. I wonder if he's really getting close to being done. Either way, I mean, whatever the reason he didn't play or whatever, foot injury or whatever, it's a really sad in some ways. It didn't feel right without him being out there with that Shaq team. Like that Shaq team was so power packed, but without him as the centerpiece of like the thing that everything revolves around, they didn't have the luster and the power that you would think they would have going in. It's too bad that LeBron didn't suit up and go out there just for a little bit, even half-assed a little bit, because honestly, that took away from the prestige of Shaq's OGs and who they were because LeBron wasn't joining with these guys. Part of the fun of the Olympics last year was what I'm talking about right now. Kevin and Steph and Braun together. And they wanted to recapture that a little bit in the All-Star weekend, obviously, by making a Team USA with Shaq's OGs. But Braun didn't show up and play in it. So it didn't have the same feel of LeBron, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Damian Lillard. It's too bad. It's too bad. Honestly, it is too bad. Because you know what? These chances aren't going to be coming very much soon. This may be the last chance. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, looking at the other side, they gave a B+ to SGA for his performance in the All-Star game last night. He got 16 points altogether. He was much more part of the first game. And last game, he only got 4 points on 1 of 4 shooting. And that's kind of bullshit. They should have been using him more. Yeah, Jokic really pissed me off last night. I feel like he's a big reason why they lost. Wemby was awesome. Wemby was really trying his ass off. And he really did like come to this NBA weekend with the right kind of attitudes. I feel like Wemby was such a star this whole weekend, even though he wasn't really. You know, he didn't go to the Rising Stars on Friday night so he wouldn't take away from the attention on Steph Castle. And that was such a good teammate for that. Then he had his weird little disqualification on Saturday night, which was confusing, and he maybe felt a little humiliated. But man, he came to the All-Star game with the right energy of competing more than anyone else, honestly. All those other older players on any of the teams did not play as hard as Victor Wembanyama. He played the hardest out of all the All-Stars last night. I will say that, seriously, because he really was trying. He really was. Siakam had an interesting couple games. He didn't get to play much in the final, but he got 4 points in the first one. They gave him a B-, ESPN, for his performance in the All-Star game. It said, what stood out? Active as a starter in the semifinal, Siakam had a memorable 3-play sequence when he scored off a Trae Young feed, stole a pass on a subsequent possession, and then assisted on a Young layup. Siakam played only the opening minutes of the final before giving way to Wembanyama. Yeah, I wish they'd left him in and taken Joker out. Maybe, like, you know, in some ways, they needed to keep the guys who are working hard in the game. I mean, that's the philosophy these coaches should have. It's just like their teams. If you ain't working hard, you ain't getting minutes. And Joker should have been on the bench. I'm just saying, over and over again. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. That was a big part of it right there. So, yeah, it was an interesting stuff. Of course, the young guns, the young team, that Kenny's young stars, they did get their ass beat by the Global Stars in the first round, and that was fantastic. And, man, it was so cool. Tyler Hero was going off, though, for a little bit there, making a couple threes in that game. Yeah, ESPN's reaction, well, it is what it is. It is what it is. That's right. All right, let's see. Fiercey saying, I agree with Lex. Yesterday's outcome was scripted, but I enjoyed the show. Kevin Hart's, in my opinion, was a great addition. They just needed to rearrange the stops, a.k.a. TNT crew being recognized was annoying. Yeah, I mean, they kept going, or after each game, they go outside to the villain crew. That's what I was calling them. They're all villains to me, except for Vince. Vince is my guy. I'm okay with Vince. He's the one that's the most likable out of them. And what's going on with Jalen Rose's hair? Man, that guy is so insecure about his hair. He's doing some fake-ass shit with his head. I don't understand that. But anyway, and Draymond being an ass, and even the host guy that's outside, he's a piece of crap too. Yeah, that's why they keep those guys outside. That was the heel announce team out there. And like I said, Draymond really didn't do him any services. Not only did he shit all over the concept of the All-Star game last night, but he also showed that he's an idiot when he said, oh, Chuck's team got eliminated in the first round. No, you're not paying attention. Kenny's team got eliminated, you dumbass. And they even said something like that. Like one of their excuses was, well, what, these guys work so hard and become an all-star all year, and they only get to play in a game to 40, and they're out. Victor Wembanyama's out already? Yeah, that sucks. Victor's out, and Pascal's out. No, you dumbasses. They won their game. Maybe because you're outside, you can't see the game. Do you have a little monitor that you get to watch the game? Like, you have one job. You're an announcer. You're supposed to get things correct. And you guys sleeping on the fact, oh, Kenny's team lost, not Chuck's team, and y'all announcing that Chuck's team just shows how unprofessional and out to lunch you fucks are, you guys. I know Vince made the same mistake with Draymond. He actually set him up for it, and Draymond doubled down. I was like, Chuck's team lost, and they're out. No, they didn't, you dumbass. And you throw all your credibility out the window when you make that misstep, and your little douchebag host has to correct you like a minute later, and you look like an idiot, Draymond Green. I mean, we want professional broadcasters, TNT. If you're going to have 3 announce crews, okay, you have the fun crew, which is like they were doing a weird thing on courtside where they were on the PA system yelling with Kevin Hart, and Shaquille and Kenny and Chuck would come sit there and talk, and they go back and forth, and like they're literally talking to the guys on the court, and in some ways they're like yelling at them like they're this is what you should do. You go do this, SGA. And SGA is looking over at Kevin Hart like, are you serious? Are you telling me how to play basketball, Kevin Hart? It's like, it was like that for a little while in the game last night with them kind of like a court jester sitting there, kind of rouses them up. I understand why they did that. They came out, and Kevin Hart kind of set the tone with Ernie Johnson and talking about how we're going to take this seriously. And Kevin Hart's going to ridicule you if you don't. If you don't take this seriously, Kevin Hart's going to make fun of you during the game. Is kind of what the threat was. So NBA players, you better take the All-Star game seriously. I don't understand why they need all this to do this. Seriously. Did Larry Bird need all this to do this for the All-Star game? Did Isaiah Thomas? Did Michael Jordan? No. They understood the All-Star game and what it is and why they need to do better in it. But these new guys, they just don't get it. It goes right over their head. Right over the head. And then the regular announce crew, that Brian Anderson guy, I hate that guy so much. He was such a homer. And he was totally, like I said, given the cues that it was all script written. If you listen to how he calls that game, if you go back and watch the replay, listen to Brian Anderson and how he calls it. He'll tell you everything you need to know about the directives of the league and making sure Shaq's team won. Seriously. And they gleefully were putting down the global team in some ways. And I don't know. In this day and age, with the era of what's going on in the United States politically, this isn't the good look, is what I'm saying right now. It's not that American exceptionalism is true anymore. It's absolutely not. This country is going down the fucking toilet right now because of the president and Elon Musk. And y'all trying to act like the USA is the greatest at everything. Well, you're lying to yourselves. And in some ways, you show the insecurity and the stranglehold you had on the narrative you had to write for the NBA All-Star weekend this weekend. I wish y'all just let the global stars play them fairly, and we could see which team would have been the rightful winner. But y'all had to manipulate it. That's all I'm saying right there. I thought Kevin Hart was amazing, but Doug Smith hated him. Doug Smith saying, why did they let the comedian come out here and ruin the All-Star game? This is messed up. It's the last TNT All-Star game. Well, Doug, what rock have you been living under? Have you not understood that this has been TNT style for like decades to have a celebrity involved on the court in the middle of stuff like this? Do you not understand this, Doug Smith? That like TNT has had a very stylistic way of integrating celebrities into NBA coverage since the very beginning. Honestly, you got to get the memo. Is it because you don't think the guy's funny? He called Shaq a porn director last night. How can you not think that's funny? That's hilarious. He called him a porn director to his face. And the back and forth with him and Chuck put on Shaq's little porn hat. And he's like, you look like a cast member of Tyler Perry's play. It's like, and Chuck had to laugh. Chuck was laughing because that was funny. I'm sorry. Maybe Doug Smith, you're too old. You just don't get it. You're an old fuddy-duddy. Old man yelling at the wind. Why do they have this comedian at the game last night? Well, it's not for you, Doug. That's for damn sure. It ain't for you. I guess I'm not too old to be a fuddy-duddy to not see how hilarious he was. Because he was hilarious to me. And he absolutely was one of the better things about last night. You could think he's one of the worst things, Doug. But that's just showing your age and how out of touch you are with current cool things, my guy. Yeah, I thought he was hilarious, man. I thought he was hilarious. Let's see. Smooth's here. Good to see Reggie. He's saying, actually, I could not get through it. It was awful, in my opinion. I decided to watch SNL 50th anniversary special, Saturday Night Live. Now, that was a great watch. There you go. Okay. Reggie tried to watch the All-Star game, but he couldn't watch it. He said it was awful. Oh, man, I want you to elaborate. Tell me exactly what turned you off because we want to hear. I want to know about this.
and let me know exactly what it is that turned you off about the whole thing. Was it the format? Was it anything? We don't have to agree on this. I'm very curious because they were taking comment cards last night in the middle of the game. Kat, what do you think of the new format? Dame Lillard, what do you think of the format? Well, let's hear what the Raptor Freaks thought about the format. You guys chime in the comments and I'll read them and we'll go over it. But yes, Reggie, if you want to elaborate in any kind of way on what specifically you didn't like about the All-Star game that turned you off, please elaborate. And if it disagrees with me, I'm perfectly fine with that. I want to hear all the different voices. Let's see. Fiercely saying the performers before the game and during halftime were Chef's Kiss. Iconic talents representing the Bay Area in Vogue, Too Short, Raphael, Sadiq, E40, etc. Yeah, it was fantastic. Fantastic. The DJ playing some Metallica in there too. San Francisco band, Metallica. But no, I love seeing Too Short pop up out there all of a sudden. Of course, he's in the side a little rap group, the super group Mount Westmore with Snoop Dogg, E40, and Too Short and Ice Cube. And in some ways, like Too Short I've seen him recently and what he's been doing, and that was so cool. That was a treat to me specifically. And of course, I love the great Raphael Sadiq, such a talented musician, such a great singer, and the medley that he did for the intros was just top notch. The switching from song to song, according to who was coming out, was just really, really good. I mean, that dude was all over. They were playing Metallica, they were playing Journey, and then they were going into all kinds of other R&B hits too. So it's like, man, really, really good musical stuff. I completely agree with you, Fiercey, that the performers were good. Now, maybe we could not have the concert in between all of the games. Seriously. Seriously, because that's going to drag everything out, is that kind of stuff. And, well, it is what it is. They got to figure it out. So we're saying most of the old casts were there. It was really cool. From what I observed the game, it was a 3-hour-long commercial. Now, I'm not going to disagree with you. That's always been the case, though. I mean, what? Blake Griffin jumped over a Kia for a Kia commercial in a dunk competition. It's always been Sprite or Starry 3-point competition. Always going to be like this. And even Ernie said at the end of the All-Star game, we have to make sure we make our sponsors happy with the Kia talk and talking about Kias in the car and get the advertisements in. It's always been this way. It's always been this way. The NBA is always interladen with advertising like crazy. Yeah. And it's a commercial for not just the products that they were endorsing, but also the NBA, a commercial for the NBA. And that's why these players just don't get it. Y'all are failing. You're not doing a good job of growing the sport or grabbing attention because y'all look like a bunch of overpaid, rich guys. They're lazy, that don't even take this seriously anymore. And that's part of the reason why the reputation of the NBA has gone down the tubes. This is so vital this weekend. But in some ways, these players just don't get it from Draymond's generation. They just don't get how important this event is. And they don't take care of it right. Fiercely saying Draymond's rant and opinion about the All-Star format were not to be shared on this platform. He sounded salty as fuck. Whining about rising stars taking the court on Sunday night. Didn't he see the scheduling? Yeah, I don't know what his problem is. I think in some ways he thinks he's a brand and this is the way he's going to be. Like he's going to be like a Skip Bayless or a Stephen A. Smith, kind of abrasive, kind of like, I'm strongly opinionated. I'm going to say this and this and this and this. I think that's where he's at, but I think he missed the mark. And honestly, I'm wondering if he's going to get a memo or somebody's going to call him about what he did last night and say, you know what, we're not happy about this. You know, we look at what happened with Drake and his comments on DeMar DeRozan on our broadcast and how he has not appeared since. Well, this kind of action may need to happen for Draymond, honestly, because Adam Silver, he's hurting your product. He hurts your product personally because of the crazy ass violence he causes on the court. He turns people off. In some ways, he's not. You guys think he's a star. The only people in this country are in the NBA that thinks he's a star are in Golden State. The rest of the NBA think he's a jackass and kind of a violent idiot and psycho. And honestly, I don't have the respect for him that people in some places do as far as he's a defensive genius or this or that. No, I just think of him as an ordinary basketball player that's been overhyped and coddled and built to be who he is at this point because there was some sort of idea of making the next Charles Barkley in the NBA. That's exactly what it is. Y'all want him to be the next Barkley because you know Barkley's getting older and you don't know who's going to take over in that spot on broadcast. So you're trying to make Draymond this. He's not this, though. This is the thing. Charles can be outspoken and very opinionated, but he's fair and honest, and that's the thing. He's likable.
People like Charles. People don't like Draymond. And that's the biggest difference right there. So you can't have Draymond Green just automatically become the next Charles Barkley in NBA media. It's not going to happen. We hate him and everything he says. He turns people off. I honestly, if he's going to be more and more prominent in your broadcasts after he retires, I'm going to probably turn the NBA off more generally. Like if he's on, I might mute him every time he's on and try and just avoid hearing him, Adam Silver. So I don't know, man. This whole idea of Draymond becoming a future broadcaster for the NBA in a major way, you may want to scrap this before it even starts, because this dude's just going to cause problems for you down the road. And in some ways, he's not selling your product correctly. He's actually like destroying your product on the download from the inside. And that's no good right there. That's no good. How are you going to build up this rising stars caliber? Like he needs to go to wrestling school and learn how to build up things and not talk down things. Because every time an announcer talks down the NBA product, whether it's the format sucks or the rising stars shouldn't be here on Sunday night, you're actually hurting things and you're not letting things take to be more established. And I don't think he gets that. I don't think he gets that. He might get it today after he heard from other people how they feel about it. Seriously. Yeah. Yeah. Fiercely saying no matter what he does or say, Adam Silver seems to have an unhealthy fixation on him and gives him all sorts of passes. Yeah, that's another thing I hate. You know, Adrian Griffin could work his ass off for years and years as assistant coach, get one chance and unfairly get fired. Draymond Green could choke people year after year, attack people, hit people, and he gets off scot-free. I mean, this is kind of the world we're starting to live in, where people can get away with murder and injustice, and there's no fairness of law. The rule of law is going out the window in the United States right now. It's a lawless country, a dictator's coup, and honestly, Draymond Green just symbolizes it. Is this a new type of hero for the era we're going into because of the new presidency? Is Draymond Green just fit right on in Trump America? Probably. That's not the America I want. And those aren't the kind of people I want to celebrate. A fucking piece of shit like Trump, Elon Musk, or Draymond Green. Seriously. Seriously. All right, let's keep going. Good morning, Raptor Freak crew. That's Cool Cat. Coach Cool Cat in the house on a family day. She's saying Global Stars was great. Game 1, game 2, wait too long. They were too cold. If they played hard, they would result in injury. Pascal only got to play 3 minutes, was standing at subline forever to enter. Yeah, I don't agree with that. I wish he had played most of the final. We know Siakam and his conditioning and how he works. In some ways, if there's anybody who's going to be able to get hot and cold and come back and get warmed up fast, it's Spicy. And in some ways, you know, it's not that. That's another thing that could be fixed in the All-Star game is maybe you guys have strategy with your coaches and not just figurehead GMs and then other people just managing things. No, actually think about what you're doing to try and win and use your personnel for your teams correctly. Because in some cases, you know, mistakes were made like in the Rising Stars Challenge that almost Bryce McGowan's going to be sitting out and he would have made that 3-point shot to get the G League team into the finals on Friday night because of a set rotation and ideas about how things are going to be. No, call it the way it should be. Even if you intended to play Nikola Jokic, Kenny Atkinson for Team Chuck, you should have taken him out because you read he wasn't playing right. Even if you had already allocated, well, Joker is going to get this amount of minutes. No, take his minutes away and put Siakam out there. Because Siakam's going to work. He's going to try, and he's going to play his ass off, even if he's not totally warmed up. So, yeah, I agree with Cool Cat. There's a risk of injury because of that format. And I'm just saying, coaches, you want to make this more competitive, not just the players. It's not up to them. You coaches, you decide who's playing. And in some ways, that's a way to get the carrot in front of them to play more. If they're lazy and they're notoriously lazy, like Nikola and Luka, don't play them and teach them a lesson. You don't get to play All-Star this year because you have been a criminal towards the sanctity of the competition of the All-Star game in years past. So you know what? You get the title, you get All-Star, but you're not going to play because I'm the coach and I'm deciding who has the best chance to help us win. And I'm going to put them out there. Because I feel like that in some ways could have made it more competitive and better if there was some coaching strategy to why the rhyme or reason of the units are getting put out there for whatever reason. You know, that could help. That could help. G saying, I like the format. However, the last game seemed like Chuck's team didn't try hard and let them win. They need to offer points for defensive stuff like blocks and steals. That's an interesting wrinkle, G. So you think that they should do something with honoring that? That would be weird. I don't know how they would do that exactly. I mean, I could see where that could be interesting and innovative and kind of be fresh, but I don't know if it's plausible to do. I don't know why. Maybe it's because sometimes steals and blocks can be ambiguous and they can be very debatable. While a basket is a basket, it goes through the net. That running three that Steph Curry did last night, that wasn't a three. That man ran within the 3-point line. But hey, script writing sounds good to get Steph Curry a shot like that. Yeah, that wasn't a three. He ran inside the line, and they weren't a stickler about it. Let's see. Carlos here. Good morning, Lex and Philip Freaks. Good morning to you, Carlo JS. Good morning to Santino. I hope he's doing very well. Fiercely saying, as a player of a certain caliber, it must be frustrating to be told to lose on purpose. No, they didn't tell them to lose on purpose, Fiercely. That's not what it was. They were handcuffed as far as the energy thing that I'm talking about. And, you know, I don't think that they were being told to lose on purpose. I think that maybe the refs might have had a little bit to do with guiding the game just in case on the inside. Like if the outcome wasn't look like, because they weren't close enough for it to be a problem. And Eric Dalen could get away with an 8-second violation. But if it had been close and it was too close and Adam Silver was sweating and Shaq's team wasn't going to beat Charles's, maybe the ref manipulation would have happened. But I don't think it's because the Chuck's team was pulling punches or they were told to lose. No, I don't think that's what it was. I think that their flatness is very much what I told you guys. And it's not that they came out and they didn't try hard. It's just that they were completely cold, and it's completely a weird biorhythm for a team to have such a long break between games in this situation. So that's really what it is to me, as far as what I saw. Mike's here. Logical Raptor Schematic. Project Truth always, Mike. Hope you're doing good. He's saying, salute. Not going to lie. In my opinion, it's all the old stars. Braun didn't care, so now no one does. Kobe held the torch, but Braun dropped it. Exactly. Charles was awesome when he retorted to Draymond. He was telling the truth the whole night. Charles is just on point, and he was so gracious in the ceremony at the end and giving light to the fans, saying it's like, this is nothing without the players and the fans. Thank you, fans. If you've been a fan of the NBA in the past 40 years, I appreciate you and thank you. I took it to heart directly from Charles Barkley, who's thanking us for watching Inside the NBA and TNT for all this time. And just a class act. And him and Ernie thanking the production staff and all that kind of stuff. That's just top notch. That's a good person. Charles Barkley is just a badass. And I love him even saying, like, yeah, I'm going to talk to the San Francisco mayor about his homeless problem. And we're going to try and get this fixed. You know, he's just a good person, man. Charles Barkley's awesome. And Draymond, you should be more like Charles in some ways. Some people say you are like him, but no, you're not. No, you're not. You're like evil Charles. Seriously. It's like if there's an evil twin, you're like the evil little mustache Charles. Yeah, you're not a good person. Charles Barkley is a good person. And that's the difference. I love him shut him down, though. He said, Draymond, I completely disagree with Draymond. And he's an idiot. And he's part of the reason why this game's all messed up. His generation messed it up. And that's what we're talking about right there. Cool Cat's saying that LeBron prevented Norman Powell from being an all-star. He knows his damn ankle was not good. He could have announced it early. Why didn't he want Norman to get the opportunity? Wow, that's a lot of supposing right there. But I could see you being exactly right. Yeah, it's bullshit. It could very well be that LeBron thought he was going to play up until yesterday, and then he said, oh, no, I can't play in the morning, because it sounded like the decision was made yesterday. No, you're exactly right. In some ways, Norman got screwed. You know, there's a stat out there that Norman's career, there's only been 50 guys that have done what he's done this year with the shooting and his stats exactly. And 49 out of those 50 players were all-stars. And Norman's the only one who didn't get all-star for the same exact kind of stats. It's messed up. It's messed up. In some ways, Norman being drafted by the Bucks and then traded to us and being a rookie for us and coming through our system and being another Masai success story is not wanted to be put on blast. Think about how hard Siakam has had to claw and fight to get the accolades that he's gotten. You know, Fred got his all-star a couple years ago, but they're going to bury him behind people like Amin Thompson and Sengun as the best important Rocket at this point. Well, we know Fred's the most important Rocket. You guys can fool us and try and say all this bullshit. They don't win without Fred VanVleet in the lineup. And, well, they are already wanting to anoint Amin Thompson over him to be more important on the Rockets and more in line to get the All-Stars in the future. Yeah, they're going to try and bury our guys. It looks too illustrious when a Raptors 2019 team has too many All-Stars spawned from it, too many max contracts spawned from it, too many top players that are franchise players spawned from it. Yeah, it looks bad in some ways because they don't want the Raptors to look good like that. And that's part of it. That may very well be part of it right there. That Norman, I hope you get All-Star. Seriously. I hope you get it next year. If you have a year like you did this year and they snub you again, there's something weird going on, is what I'm going to say. He's already been snubbed for a couple years on the download for the Sixth Man of the Year award. Norman should have won Sixth Man of the Year in one of these years since, but he's always gotten overlooked. So I don't know if it's just how it is. And maybe that's the grind he understands, that it's a thankless grind, a grind where nothing comes easy for a recognition. And he's going to grind anyway. He's going to get what he gets. And he's getting stuff either way. Coming to All-Star break for the first time in his 10-year career, but in the three-point shootout. Yeah, you know what, Cool Cat? I didn't even think about this, about LeBron and an injury replacement that could have been Norman Powell. And man, this kind of makes me mad when you bring it up this way. And it kind of makes sense that it could be like this. But we don't know who would have been added. There could be a good case that if LeBron had sat out, Domantas Sabonis would have been coming to the All-Star game instead. So, because he probably may have been next in line. I still think that the nod that went to James should have been Norman's. James Harden did not need to go to the All-Star game this year. And the Clippers All-Star should have been Powell. And I think most people around the NBA agree with this. I've heard media people openly say this, and people have tweeted this all over the place too. And Norman said it himself. He said it himself. Let's see. Mike's saying, get some young star blood or real competitors like Lowry. Laugh out loud. Taking a charge made everyone turn up and play harder. It's the old guard. Yeah, I thought that Lowry, even in his older age, really did take the game seriously. In some ways, you know what? That may be part of why the problem in the NBA is. We've anointed too many golden boys that are too soft and not real competitors, and they're just there for the wrong reasons. And old school players like DeMar and Kyle that play for the right reason, that are all out, those are the guys who should have been getting awarded and coming to these games. I mean, there's guys like DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. Well, DeMar could have been an all-star maybe this year. I don't know. He would have brought up the competitiveness and tried his ass off. That's the thing. Maybe y'all are picking the wrong all-stars. And these guys, lazy guys like Jokic, don't necessarily need to go to the all-star game. We need to get guys who are actually real all-stars because they're going to go out there and they're going to take it seriously like Magic and Larry and Charles did before. Seriously. An all-star, it doesn't just necessarily have to be stats. Well, how do you compete? Maybe they need to judge people on how they compete more than just that other bullshit at this point. Seriously. Bryce Lawson said, y'all got to stop hating on Bron. Come on, guys. He's freaking 40. I will never understand it. It's not that I'm hating on him. I'm more disappointed. I'm not mad at him. I'm just disappointed. In fact, I'm kind of talking positively about him. I feel like it didn't fit without him out there. That in some ways, he's just that centerpiece of Shaq's team that everything revolves around. And I really feel like Adam Silver intended to have that Shaq OG team feel like the Team USA in the Olympics last year. That chemistry between KD, Chef Curry, and Bron is special. And they wanted to do it at the All-Star game. So I'm not mad at him. I just disappointed because I feel like in this case, he missed out on an opportunity, whether he's hurt or not. And in some ways, I'm more sad for him that, the clock's ticking. He's, as you say, he's 40. And there may not be many more opportunities for him to compete in an all-star game. So, yeah, Bryce, I'm showing the respect for him in the way that I wish he had played because he'd make the all-star game better. Does that make sense? Because he is a marquee star. And in some ways, that Shaq team is just not as prestigious without LeBron James actually playing on it. So Mike's saying he's scared to compete for real without advantages or narrative blaming. Well, that's an interesting take, Mike. Now, that might get the ire of Bryce right there. I'm not willing to go on that with you on that. I won't go on that for sure. That's a little bit too much of a step too far. So who knows? I don't know his reasoning why. It could be very well exactly what he's saying. His foot is a certain way. And in some ways, he's more worried about things for the Lakers than he is for the league. So, yeah. And Bryce is saying, LeBron's scared to compete? Well, I mean, I could see from the other side what Mike's saying, even though it's probably not true. It's probably not true. Mike's saying, fear of losing is strong. Yes. I don't know. LeBron has lost a lot in his career, and you know what? He's gotten used to it. He goes to the finals and loses all the time. I mean, in some ways, that's just part of it. Fiercely saying, I think there will also be a WNBA in Detroit, also so close to Toronto. Well, they had a team too. They just got to revive it. Detroit Shock. The Shock were a team, and they had to close down because that market wasn't supporting them. We'll see. Maybe Detroit Shock will come back around. It could very well be the WNBA is going to have a very fast expansion growth in the next few years, and they may be up to 20 teams at some point. You know, with Cleveland added now, they'll be at 16. And in some ways, 16 is such a great number because it's dividable into 8, into 4, into 2, into 1. It's a perfect tournament number, 16. So I don't know. They might sit on 16 for a little while, but you know, it's very likely. Yeah, if they part of it's the economics too. Like if Detroit as a market isn't doing so well supporting the NBA team, well, that's usually a sign that the WNBA team will not get financially supported well enough. And they lost the team already. Seriously, in Detroit, the Detroit Shock went away, so it may not be until they feel like the Pistons are strong enough as a team and they're getting a good audience again and filling the Little Caesars Arena better, then maybe they'll revisit the Detroit Shock returning the team to the league. Cleveland, on the other hand, with the Cavs resurgence, an incredible year this year, this is the time to strike when the iron's hot and get the Rockers back for the WNBA. Because the Cavs franchise is very healthy right now, obviously, and basketball enthusiasm in Ohio is up. So that's part of it right there. Bryce saying, now, why would LeBron be scared of an all-star game? I'm sorry, no disrespect, but you sound foolish. Yeah, I'm going to have to side with Bryce on this. LeBron isn't afraid of the all-star game. I don't think it's that. I think that in some ways, he just makes decisions for himself in some ways. And I feel like even if he was kind of a little bit not hurt, he could have just gone out there for a second and played a little bit of a stint and just quietly played for like 2 minutes and then not played again. And it would have done the job that I wanted as far as he's a part of the team and he actually played. He may not have had to play at all, hardly. He could have just came out there, but he didn't even want to put the suit on or anything. That's what I'm wondering about. You know, Giannis, another one. Giannis, he put the jersey on and did all the pictures in the back and did all that stuff. And he didn't play. You know, I don't know. In some ways, I'm not willing to wage too much on either side of this argument. I think that Bryce is probably more right, though, that in some cases, it's like there's no need to disrespect LeBron in this situation. He's older and he is probably hurt, but I still feel like it was an opportunity lost. That's my whole point about it. It's an opportunity lost, and that's it. Yeah. Bryce is saying, good morning, Lex and Raptor Freaks. Good morning to you, Bryce. Good morning to you. Good to see you back in the chat. Mike, I don't want you to just argue with Bryce right now, okay? And Mike saying, LeBron cares about his story. He's crafted so well. Losing hurts his GOAT case, so he only competes when he got scapegoats or a super team. I don't respect that. Yeah, Mike, I'm going to say you're a little off base on this. I'll side with Bryce. I can be a Bron hater, but this isn't the case to do it right now. Yeah, Bryce is saying, yeah, you sound like you're on drugs. Anyway, we don't want to make personal attacks, guys. So, and he's also saying playing defense only when he wants to sign off of it. Half-fast player. Did you mean half-fast? I don't know. Well, either way, I'm with Bryce on this. There's no reason to disrespect LeBron in this situation. My only key point was I wanted to say I was disappointed that he didn't play because I feel like he would have added to things. That's all. Let's saying Victor doesn't give a fuck. I love it. He dunks, blocks, passes, competes. He's in it to win it. Yeah, it was fantastic. He's awesome. I really do like Victor more and more. I like his personality. I like that he tried to cheat. It wasn't even cheating. It was just innovative like strategy, but it was against the rules. Nah, I'm going to like more and more of Victor, and I'm not a hater on him. I'm Spurs Nation, and I want to see championships roll towards San Antonio because of the big number one that's playing there now. Yeah, he's a badass, man. It's so fun to watch him. And it was a joy to cheer on Siakam again. I forgot how fun it is to watch Siakam on my team and be rooting for him like I was last night. And I really was in love with his team, Chuck. I mean, SGA from Canada and all the stuff we do watching Team Canada on this channel and how much I love covering SGA when we do those games. having him with the old Raptor great like Pascal on the team and Victor on the same team, and then all those other guys added on that was just a top-notch talented team. In some ways, I felt like that team was way more talented than Shaq's team. Seriously. If there had been a little bit more balance in some ways, they had all centers. It was crazy. It had such height. And that's what I'm saying. There's a coaching strategy that could have been employed by Chuck's team to really utilize the absolute height advantage they had in this tournament. Where's the gamemanship and competitiveness at that level? This doesn't just need to be the players that compete hard. The coaches could have say in their decisions and what they're telling them to do out there. You got Sengun, Nikola, Cat, and Wembayama on the same team. Nobody should be making no shots on the other side. You play 3 of them and put them in free spots around the goal, and nobody's shooting over them. You put Victor in the middle. You put Cat on one side. You put Sengun on the other. Nobody making nothing. Like, I would have done that. You got this overpowering, crazy team. Utilize its strengths and put it all out there and coach the damn team. Instead of give them some strategy and tell them this is how we're going to win. We're going to utilize Victor like this and we'll dominate. I mean, seriously, that may be what you missed last night, Adam Silver, is sure the players competed a little harder, but maybe coaching strategy and actual kind of basketball forces and mentality of whoa, mismatches and there's a weakness here with this player. I'm going to go and take advantage of them. All that kind of stuff. The coach's chess could have been involved in this. And I would have loved if they'd actually had the GM guys actually coaching them and not the coaches. If Chuck was actually coaching that team and making the decisions and pulling guys in and out and deciding the plays and saying, we're going to do this with Nikola and this, that would be way more exciting and entertaining also. But unfortunately, that would mean that Chuck and Kenny and Shaq would actually have to do real work instead of just showing up to be funny. Oh, man, yeah. G saying, yes, a Joker was annoying me, to be honest. Even unnecessary turnovers. SGA, Pascal, Wemby were trying. Yeah, those 3 guys were trying. The play of Mitchell and Cat was good in the first game, but it unraveled in the second game. And we didn't see enough Trae Young in the final game either. That's bad strategy right there. You got an offensive weapon and the best playmaker in the league right now, Trae Young, leading the league in assists, and you're not getting him out there. The presence of SGA and Trae Young should have been much more prominent in that game against Team Shaq. Instead, we got lazy-ass threes jacked up by Cat and Nikola and lazy-ass chasing out on closeouts on defense by those same 2 guys too. And, yeah, it was annoying. Very annoying, G. I was annoyed too because I was competitive and I wanted to win. And when I saw Nikola was not trying, I was like, fuck Nikola Jokic right now. It's just because I wanted Team Chuck to win. And Jokic, it's not that he was trying to follow a script. He's just being him. It's an exhibition game. He doesn't care. He'd rather be home with his horses. And the NBA All-Star game doesn't mean jack shit to Nikola. And he is very much one of the biggest culprits for why the NBA All-Star game has sucked the last couple of years. He absolutely is. I'll put a finger straight to Nikola Jokic, a 3-time MVP, as being one of the reasons why the All-Star game has sucked in the recent 5 years. Seriously, because he's been involved and he does not take it seriously in the least. Honestly, if you took it more seriously and you want to be goofy and joke around, well, do trick plays, do trick passes instead of just making bad turnovers and being lazy closing out on defense. Seriously, that's what I say right there. Mike's saying the best all-star game recently was basically Lowry, Siakam versus Kawhi. It was like a raps practice. Laugh out loud. Bron doesn't care about the all-star game, so everyone makes it a joke of it. Kobe took it seriously. Yeah, KD, Curry, Dre, and Bron. Yeah, okay, Mike. Anyway, either way, I don't want you to start a back and forth with Bryce, and I appreciate you to stop talking to each other on this. Bryce, you can say what you want to say, but I know that Mike has a proclivity to argue and prolong my streams with going over the same bullshit over and over again. So I don't want to draw this LeBron debate out any longer than it needs to. Y'all can stop it, all right? Seriously. This is seriously. All right, hang on. Let me see where I'm at. Yeah, you guys, little nitpicking fight here. I don't want to read it all out. In some ways, I've been wasting time on my stream with too much of this kind of energy, and I know it's partly a lot me. It's a lot me, honestly, a lot me. All right, where was I? All right, here we are. Stargate saying a Bay Area event like this and no MC Hammer, blasphemy. They played a little bit of his music at times. They did play a little bit of Too Legit to Quit as an homage to him, but he wasn't personally there. I think Raphael Sadiq played a little bit of MC Hammer in his pre-introduction thing. So he was represented slightly. Slightly. Yeah, slightly. But he wasn't there to perform. I don't know. Hammer might be pretty old at this point. And to see him actually get out there and perform on stage, I don't even know if he tours or does shows ever anymore. That may be part of it right there, Stargate. That may be part of it. Mike is saying Adam Silver doesn't control trades. Laugh out loud. The GMs don't tell him about upcoming deals. Not gonna lie. I know you've been covering this a lot on there, and you've been really standing up for the Luka deal, and it's not fishy. But I'm telling you right now, people that are so aggressively wanting to be in charge and have strangleholds on things are control freaks, Mike. And Adam Silver not knowing about this deal is absolute horse crap. Because honestly, if this happened behind his back and all of a sudden he's surprised by it, he's going to feel like, oh my gosh, things in this league are not, I'm not able to kind of control them to a degree. He wants absolute control, trust me. And this deal does not happen without his blessing. There's no way that this happened without him knowing and just happened behind the scenes. You can believe that if you want, but I'm watching with my eyes wide open and I'm witnessing this shit. And he's a lawyer. And in some ways, just like his predecessor, David Stern, his job is to protect the company of the NBA and the billion-dollar business that it is. And a big, huge deal like this that really changes the league a lot, he has something to do with it. You seriously, and I'm not going to argue with you. You can believe what you believe. I'm going to believe what I believe. And to me, I'm not stupid enough to believe that he didn't have anything to do with it. And I'm not saying you're stupid. You have your reason to think that. But seriously, this deal is so important and so big. He had to have known ahead of everybody else. And in some ways, maybe they tried to work it out before, but he had to talk to him before they pulled the trigger. He's not going to just allow a trade like this. So there may be an order to things that is kind of makes it kind of like, oh, okay, well, it's this way and then this way. He did knew this before. But I'm just saying, he doesn't allow this in this league unless he's okay with it. Trust me. He doesn't allow this. I mean, look at Chris Paul going to the Clippers or to the Lakers. Chris Paul going to the Lakers before. You know, they didn't let that happen. So he has to okay it at some level or at some point, even when he discovers it. So I'm just saying, and in some ways, he wouldn't allow this if he didn't want it. And he wanted it. Trust me, he wanted it. Let's see. Yeah, Fiercely saying this, exactly what I just said. Any huge decision should be known by the head honcho of an organization or a company. Adam Silver saying he didn't know is optically not a good look. So I'm with Lex. He knew about the trade. If he didn't know, he's bad at his job. How about that? There's neither way that it's a good outcome. Either he's lying and saying that he didn't know, or he didn't know and he's bad at his job. It's like those are the only two things I could say about that. Trevor's saying Kendrick Perkins said LeBron knows he was not going to play when he got selected. And that is selfish because another guy could have gotten a chance to play. I'll agree with this if this is true. I'll agree with this if this is true. It is selfish if he did that and he knew he wasn't going to play all along. Yeah, I'll agree with you if this is true. And Kendrick Perkins, yeah. Stargate saying anyone who really believes Adam Silver didn't know about this trade is beyond lost. Yeah, I'm agree with this because it's just semantics. And Mike's saying, what makes Luka so special? That would make Adam Silver care about something he has no control of. He is a ref between the owners and the players. He has control of this, though. He's the commissioner. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. He can make up whatever and say, well, this can't happen because of this. And in fact, he can force trades to happen too, like Kawhi going to LA. So, I mean, we can be different ways about naivete on this. I'm looking with my eyes wide open, and I'm not taking the hook, line, and sinker that they're trying to feed me. No, I'll avoid that bait. I'm not taking it. Mike, you can believe it, and you can ensconce it and say whatever you want on your channel about it. But officially, this is my stance on it. And if some of the Raptor freaks believe it too with me, I mean, that's all right. That's all right. So let's see. Stargate saying, yes, LeBron is an asshole for that. That spot could have gone to another player. Yeah, and Stargate saying logical's on the sauce again. Yeah, I don't know. I think that he's got his opinions and he feels strongly on them. And I mean, we can all differ with opinions, and it's no big deal with that. I mean, the Lucas stuff is interesting to me. And, you know, there may be stuff that comes out later in the future that really illuminates exactly what happened. I think that the nefarious relationship between Pelinka and Harrison is absolute collusion. And the fact that they worked together before, and yeah, the Mavs fans are absolutely right. They're absolutely right. They should be pissed, and the way they're acting and the way they're doing things, I'm totally with them. I'm totally with them. I'm not with the ownership. God forbid. The ownership of the Mavericks is absolute horrible people. Absolute horrible people. I miss Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban is an amazing person. I really look up to Mark Cuban. I think he's a very honest, truthful person, and I like him. And in some ways, I wish more rich people were like him, honestly. Seriously. Let's keep going. Let's see. Mike saying, no, laugh out loud. Nico made a decision and traded Luka for a champion as an old favorite friend from Kobe Bryant. Just because Nico didn't tell anyone doesn't mean anything. Nico didn't want drama, but getting either way, I guess. Well, of course you can get drama like that. And like I said, this is totally manipulated. The league wanted a bump in attendance and looking at a league and getting more excitement. This makes it fresh. You take a team like the Lakers, who's extremely popular, and you put a player of the young caliber like Luka, and it makes enthusiasm and attention come back to the league. It's totally manipulated, Mike. It's totally manipulated. You got to understand, they've done these things in the past. They've done big deals in the middle of the season just to get more attention on the league again because it's fresh. And everybody's like, oh, well, now I have to watch because Charles Barkley's on the Phoenix Suns. And I'm going to go watch Charles play for Phoenix now with Danny Ainge and Dan Marley and Kevin Johnson. They do this. They done this in the past. They freshen it up by making a trade so that people will come back around and check it out. There you go. Yeah, Trevor's saying Terrence Shannon Jr. had his number 0 retired on Saturday, but when it was real, it was hanging up. So you brought this up already yesterday, and honestly, I don't really know much about the story. But yeah, you already brought this up, Trevor. Let's see. Mike's saying we want professional players and announcers. Laugh out loud. That's right. We want professional players playing in the All-Star game, and we want professional announcers that actually know what they're talking about and not just talking out of their ass like Draymond Green. Yeah. Yeah, I when Jalen Rose got fired by ESPN for Jalen and Jacoby, I was like, great, I won't have to see Jalen Rose anymore. But yeah, he was around this weekend. And of course, Vince and Jalen's an interesting combo because of their time playing together as teammates on the Raptors. So seeing Jalen Rose and Vince Carter on that announce crew together, well, they're old friends. And Jalen Rose is a big supporter of Vince. And honestly, I've never trusted Jalen Rose. I feel like Jalen Rose told Vince to take off and get the hell out of Toronto. In fact, he could have been one of the voices in his head that made it muddled and confused for Vince, and to the point where he was kind of iffy, like whether he should be trying or not, and whether he should be on the Raptors or not. I don't trust Jalen Rose. He never respected our team, even when he played on it. And so, yeah, that was the villain crew. And the announcer guy was a jerk too. It was just a villain crew outside. Leave them outside. Leave them outside. There you go. Leave them outside. Fiercely saying, not a LeBron fan. Sorry, Bryce. But why would Kendrick and some of you say he knew he wouldn't participate? What would be selfish reason in question? Because if he had said he was not able to participate due to injury earlier, somebody could have been added to the team as an injury replacement, Fiercely. And that someone could have been Norman Powell. And that's what we're saying. Cool Cat brought that up. That LeBron not saying it earlier so that before the games, like Giannis did, like other All-Stars did, so Trae Young could be added, so Kyrie Irving could be added because Anthony Davis was out. If LeBron had announced maybe even last week that he wasn't going to play, they maybe would have added Domantas Sabonis or Norman Powell to the team in his replacement. That's what it is right there. Bryce saying, I'm sure LeBron figured he'd be fine. It's clear he wasn't. That's not him being selfish. It's not his job to find a replacement. Well, Bryce, we got to understand you're going to be clouded in judgment on LeBron issues, being very much a big LeBron fan. But, I mean, to be fair, we don't know the timeline of when he knew he was hurt and wasn't going to be able to play. And in some ways, we have to give him the benefit of the doubt. But optically, from the outside, what Kendrick Perkins is saying, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good from the outside. In some ways, it's his private life. And we don't know when his foot actually started to hurt in the way that is like, oh, I can't play, whether it was yesterday morning or Saturday sometime or Friday, and whether they were going to scramble to make a replacement. I don't know the timeline of all that. But also, Bryce, in some ways, if he knew way ahead of time, it does seem like a dick move to like hold on to the spot and not allow somebody else to jump into it. I mean, we don't know. We don't know. So maybe Bryce is right, but he may not be right. And he may have been a real dick about it, seriously, on the down low. Mike saying maybe it's a body is failing the mind. He said he was going to play 82 games, but everyone knew it was impossible. So maybe he thought he was good to go for All-Star game and he was talked out of it. And I don't know. Well, this is all speculation. And all we can do is just look at what happened. And honestly, we won't know. We won't know. It's probably never going to be out or anything like that, you know. Stargate saying, I'm not a Kevin Hart fan. I don't think he is funny. However, that porn director joke and the Tyler Perry joke was hilarious. See, I mean, I don't think Kevin Hart's movies are that good. They're very formulaic, and in some ways, they're very cheap laughs. But you know, he's a good comedian. You listen to him on the stage; he's pretty funny when he does stand up. And he's been an NBA institution for a while now. He's participated in a lot of celebrity games. I don't know why Doug Smith doesn't know who the hell Kevin Hart is. Like, have you gone to the movies in the last 30 years, Doug Smith, or something like that? I mean, in the last 10 years? I mean, seriously, bro. You don't know who Kevin Hart is? Seriously, come on now. And, you know, I thought he was really good. Look, there, Stargate's not even a fan. He thought his jokes were funny. They were funny, though. I mean, there's no denying. I mean, in some ways, it's bullying and it's kind of name calling. But also, you know, when you're bullying Shaq and calling him he looks like a porn director, that is spit out your drink funny. I'm sorry. Did he really just say that? You know? Kaz saying, stop defending LeBron. The dude took a spot knowing he wasn't going to play. What a clown. All right, we're getting all the different voices here. Good to see a Trucker Kaz on a Monday morning. Wayne saying this, morning, Raptor Freaks. Consider this, Lex. Usually I don't pocket watch. However, the event last night was just the 1% having fun. Sometimes it's entertaining. However, I find no fun in watching. That's interesting. That's interesting. You don't pocket watch. However, the event last night was just the 1% having fun. Sometimes it's entertaining. However, I find no fun in watching. Well, the NBA All-Star Weekend is supposed to be a celebration of the league and the history and the ways it's going. And in some ways, they checked a lot of those boxes this weekend, whether it was commemorating the 25th anniversary of Vince Carter's dunk competition, whether it's having people like Oscar Robertson sitting at the courtside for the whole weekend, taking the whole thing in, Dr. J, all the alumni coming around and being a part of it. Sometimes it's a big like convention also. You know, they do a lot of stuff around the NBA All-Star Weekend where they do like seminars with the refs or with different people. There's hobnobbing. There's all kinds of, you know, AJ Lawson was talking about in his post-game interview after the Up Next game that this has been great for networking for him. He's been at the All-Star Weekend and he went to the game last night. He took pictures in the crowd to kind of like meet new people and make new connections and go to that. So some of it's like half a convention. It's like the NBA's convention for the year. The Summer League is like that also, where the Summer League, they all come in, the refs will have workshops and, you know, there's all kinds of different events going on other than the actual games going on. And there is a bit of that going on around All-Star Weekend also. But yeah, good to see you, Wayne. Good to see you in the chat. Mike saying, I'm just giving a mental state example, no proof. Bryce saying, I won't stop. Y'all have no clue what was going through LeBron's head, and y'all sound foolish for thinking LeBron did it on purpose to not let anyone take a spot. We cannot say yes or no either way. So in some ways, I'm going to side with Bryce and say we don't know exactly what he's saying. But Bryce, let's not get it twisted. He could have done this also. So it could go either way. But because we don't know the facts, we can't just say for sure. But I'll say it could have gone either way. I don't know if LeBron's salty enough to do that. And I don't know if he would specifically hold out a guy like Sabonis or Powell from getting to the team on purpose. I don't think he's like that for that, like salty like that. I think maybe the timing of it is a little selfish. If he knew it was likely he wouldn't play last week and he could have just told them, yeah, guys, I'm really probably not going to play. You might need to get a replacement for me. They told them that last week, but we don't know the timing. So once again, we can only speculate and nobody can be proven right in this situation, whether it's all y'all or Bryce. Okay. Just so y'all know. Kaz saying, I know, Bryce, all of us are foolish, and you are the only one not foolish. No, it's just that, you know, when there's a void of information and we don't know what the truth is, we're going to fill it in with our own proclivities. And that's part of it. In some ways, they don't give you the whole truth. Well, they want you to fill in that coloring book with your own crayons. And maybe your crayons aren't the same colors as Bryce. And that's what it is right here. That's all it is. I'm not disputing what Bryce is saying because honestly, he could be very much the right one out of all of us guys. So I'm not taking either side. I'm neutral in this. And I also wanted to make it very clear. I'm not trying to disrespect LeBron today with what I'm saying. Let's keep going. Let's see. Mike saying, so what's the point of saying it if it wasn't true? I'm not totally sure. Randolph's here. Beloved Raptor Raptor Franks. Yeah, Frank Kaminsky's. I love that. Most informative gang blessings. A leader knows that the way, goes the way, and shows the way. Are you a leader? You are responsible for those you lead. Wow. Wow. I felt this personally yesterday. The odyssey of trying to drive Adriana home in a driving snowstorm in Ontario yesterday was daunting. But I had a plan and I executed it as a leader. And I led her home safely to her family so that she was okay, even though her sisters were freaking out and bugging her all weekend about, come home, there's a storm. Well, Lex got her home all right with a lot of knowledge and pre-thought and doing things correctly and taking things real slow and safe. And I showed good leadership, and I took care of her. I took care of the person I led home yesterday, and that was Adrienne in my truck. I don't know. That's the example you wanted, but blessings to the Phillips family and everybody out there. If you're a leader, you have a responsibility for the people you lead, and you should take care of them. And I agree with Randolph Phillips, and that's a lesson that some of the leadership down in the States needs to realize again. You're going to take away Meals on Wheels, you're going to starve old people. You're going to take away school lunches, you're going to starve children. You're going to take away jobs, you're going to homeless families. And that's not the way to take care of your people and be a good leader of a country. So fuck you, Donald Trump. You get my 2-finger salute today. You're probably going to get a lot more of them in the years or in the weeks and days to come. Hopefully not too long. They can knock your ass out of that position of power in the United States as soon as possible and save democracy. That'd be awesome. That'd be great. Cass saying, keep glazing, LeBron fam. Ride those nuts. Listen, LeBron's going to do what they're going to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. Let them do it. Let them live their life, Kaz. And Bryce is awesome. Y'all, I don't want y'all to pick on Bryce for being a Braun guy. Seriously, I don't want y'all to do that. Seriously, Bryce is a great Raptor freak. I've enjoyed him being on this channel, and y'all don't need to be singling him out just because he's a big LeBron fan right now. In some ways, this is not even a subject I thought I'd talk about today. I didn't think I'd talk about LeBron hardly at all today. So we will cover it a little bit, and we'll go from there. Guys saying LeBron will never be better than MJ. All right. Smooth saying Kevin Hart is an acquired taste. I get why he's not funny to some. It takes a lot for me to laugh at his jokes, man. Dave Chappelle and Jerry Seinfeld for me. I love them both. Yeah, it's different taste for everybody. I can't stand Cat Williams, but I can listen to Kevin Hart. I don't know. It's all different. Some people turn you off because maybe they use certain words. Like some people use the N-word a lot, and I don't want to watch them, whether they're in music or in comedy. It's just different. Everybody has different tastes. And I guess, Doug Smith really hates Kevin Hart. That's what I learned last night. All right, let's do the Instagram stories real quick from yesterday. Emmanuel Quickly is somewhere with palm trees and blue skies and not a single sign of snow anywhere. I'm not sure where Emmanuel is. He's either in Miami or out in California. He could have been around the All-Star weekend. But I'm glad Emmanuel's getting time away from Ontario right now, and he's getting a chance to get warm weather right now. So you guys have fun on your break, and hopefully you come back recharged, and the Raptors have a great rest of the season. The Raptors have the easiest strength of schedule for the rest of the year, and the Stank Nation is getting upset because they can see the writings on the wall that I told them at the beginning of the season. Y'all don't be all about tanking because we're naturally going to win because we have an easy schedule going out. So this is why I'm already ready to fight the Stank Nation right now, because I know they're going to get pissed off because it's going to be beating Charlotte Hornets and Washington Wizards a bunch on the way out of this season and collecting the wins that we rightfully should be getting, because our easiest part of our schedule is now instead of all the hard stuff. So Stank Nation, just quiet up and let them Raptors win at the clip that they're supposed to, is what I'm going to say. And don't worry about no ping pong balls, is what I'm going to say about that. Yeah, let's see. What else do we got? We got Wub smiling on the court in the Raptors practice jersey. This dude's ready to go back at it. He's like on All-Star break, and he's posting him in action in Raptors. Yeah, he wants to go back to it. AJ Lawson, all kinds of fun pictures from him on Team Braxton, the champions yesterday. That's right. Good job winning it. And there he is at the All-Star game last night, taking a picture from his seat, checking out the introductions. Game-worn jersey for AJ Lawson. I guess he gave it to some kid. Fantastic gift for them. Siakam with an action photo there. He had all kinds of stuff. There's his team from yesterday. This honestly is one of the greatest basketball teams ever assembled, in my opinion. The Team Chuck last night, that's just so talented and so good. If Giannis had been playing too, oh my gosh. Donovan Mitchell, Pascal Siakam, Carl Anthony Towns, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Victor Wembanyama, Alperen Sengun, and Trae Young. That is a badass team. I'm sorry. That team is so good. And it's one of the best assembled teams ever in the history of basketball. I'm serious. I'm serious. When you think about who's on that team in the history of basketball, SGA, Victor, and Nikola on the same damn team, and Pascal to boot, that's a badass team. I'm sorry. That's a really one of the greatest teams ever assembled I've ever seen. I'm not lying. Seriously. There's a celebration of life for Reginald Eugene Chaney, who passed away in August of 2023. So Jamal Shed is missing one of his old friends that passed away a couple years ago, a teammate from Houston. That's sad. So a commemoration on for his friend Reggie on his Instagram. Garrett Temple has got a guy talking about how the police broke into the Black Panthers headquarters the day before they were going to do a free school lunch program for underprivileged kids and peed all over the food to ruin it. And Garrett's trying to educate people right now, Garrett Temple, on racism in the United States and how racism, just like Rage Against the Machine sings in their songs, some of those who hold forces are the ones who burn crosses, meaning the racists and the problem people are sometimes the police. Well, this is something we need to be vigilant more against now as right-wing extremism is growing around the world behind Elon Musk. And that's why we need to reject PC leadership in Ontario and in Canada, because they are the branch of the right-wing MAGA bullshit up here, Pierre Poilievre, and we need to fucking reject that shit up here before it takes any kind of a hold like it did down in the United States. I implore every single great Canadian that's patriotic for this country, you need to vote against the right-wing governments, because if you don't, we're going to get a global fascism that's taking over from the United States and emanating towards Europe and our country right now. So if you want to be a dupe and fall for this shit up here, you vote for PC. But no, don't be idiots like the Americans and getting Trump as their president. We need to reject the progressive conservative party in the near future for the sanctity of our democracy and being able to be the country that we are here in Canada. Just trust me on this. Seriously, do not vote PC at any level for the time being. Strategically vote against them and get them out of power as much as possible in the near future. You trust me on this. If we do this, this will be much easier for Canada in the near future. Just trust me. All right, let's see. What else do I got? I think that's about it. I won't go over any more of this stuff here. All the rest of it. There's an old clip that Jamal McGlure has posted from NBA All-Star 2004 when Cabby went up to All-Stars like Vince Carter, Yao Ming, and Kevin Garnett and said, hey, if I paid you money, would you be in a Viagra commercial with me? And Vince is like, no. And some of them were like, I'll do it if you pay me enough. Yao was like confused. He didn't seem like he understood what was going on. It was kind of a funny clip. There's your Instagram stories real quick. Right there with that kind of stuff. All right, let's keep going. Mike is saying too cool to fail has rotted the NBA's upper tier. Yeah, I agree with this. That's a really correct statement. These player brands and career narratives take away from just playing basketball and playing it in the best possible ability. Totally true. Totally true. The money's too big. The branding's too big. And these guys are soft. And they're not doing it for the same reasons that the old predecessors did. That's totally true. Fiercey's got my 10-40 W stream fam. All right, good. I've got 7 minutes. I'm going to see if I can get down the countdown. Mike saying, Wemby doesn't give a fuck. He's going to compete. That's a real baller. I agree with this, Mike. I'm totally with that. Wayne saying, it's instructive to note no other very popular long-standing sports league in whatever genre does nothing to degrade their sport than what Americans do. Hyper marketing and overselling their players. Yeah, overselling is a huge issue. Yeah. The NBA is a little bit overexposed. And yes, in some ways they anoint golden boys and give them way too much too early, and they haven't actually paid their dues and actually earned it yet. And that's backfired on them in multiple cases, whether it's Zion Williamson, Ben Simmons. There's all kinds of cases where they totally endorsed the guy as the future of the league, and it failed and fell flat on its face. That's why, Adam Silver, you can't create your future of the league. It has to happen naturally through success and playing very high-level basketball. And you let the fans decide who these stars should be that are the face of the league, from what they do on the court and the fans' popularity, not force feeding us and teaching us who we should be picking is what y'all have been trying to do. And that's why it hasn't been natural or worked well and taken very well, because in some ways it's forced and we don't naturally take to them like we did Michael Jordan or Charles Barkley or Kobe Bryant. And that's the difference. You need to allow a star like SGA, who's on his way naturally to do this, get it naturally, and don't get in his way for it just because he's Canadian. No, don't get in the way of people just because they're from another country and they're not American, God forbid. Bryce is saying, rage bait will never work on me. I walk with Jesus, Kaz. All I do is try to spread love, but yet I get called a glazer for standing up for Braun in a chat full of Braun haters. You know, that's a fair comment by Bryce completely. You know, listen, Braun fans get a lot of crap, but to be honest, y'all are crazy too on the other side. But I think that in this case, in an individual case, we can't just lump Bryce into the whole Braun sexual kind of thing. It's not that. Bryce is a fan of LeBron, but he's a very sensible fan. And in some ways, he's shown like reality checks on everything. And sometimes I've heard him admit something about LeBron in the past that wasn't totally flattering. And he's like, yeah, he's been fair about this. So you can't just say he's blindly a glazer for LeBron. Bryce has his own mind and he has his own opinions. And I really don't like how this stream has turned into like, let's attack Bryce for being a LeBron lover. Seriously, there's nothing wrong with what he's doing. And I appreciate Bryce for being the bigger person in this whole situation. As far as, you know, he's just going to have his opinions. Once again, we got to allow for people to have opinions. I know I'm not the best leader on that. And I'm trying better and harder as we go. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, but either way, guys, I don't want y'all to gang up on people. Seriously. Kaz, I don't even know if I'm going to read this. You walk with Jesus? Okay, that's all I need to know, dude. Either way, seriously, I don't do well with personal attacks in this as far as like you guys back and forth with each other. I want you guys to get along. So please, let's not attack each other on this chat, please. Saying, I don't hate Braun. I don't respect what he did the NBA. I can get behind this. There's been times I've hated LeBron. I mean, I'm a Raptors fan. Of course, I'm going to hate LeBron to an extent for the 2010s. Of course, LeBronto, all that stuff, the frustration of running into him in the playoffs year after year. So, you know, there's a built-in negativity towards him and me, but I've always tried to be fair about it. And like I said, I can separate LeBron from the stuff on the court from his real life. I can separate LeBron from different things. And I try to be fair with him. In some ways, I understand his importance to the game. But I also understand what Mike's saying here, that he, in some ways, under his watch with this league, the league got worse. And it is partly his blame. That's what I'll say. Bryce is saying, right, LeBron has showcased way too much dominance and passion for the game. It's bad for the next generation. That's not exactly what he's saying. No. And I wouldn't say that. I mean, if kids are growing up and wanting to be like LeBron, I would worry about drafting those kids. Let's just put it that way. Now, if they're going to be like Scott and they want to be like Kobe, I'll draft them. And we're seeing Scott acting like Kobe on the court right now, with his very directing everybody on his team and coaching and having a certain level of excellence. You know, I don't know, man. I think that LeBron in some ways has had a fantastic, amazing career, physically malleable, able to get through all of it amazingly with not much missing time. But also at the same time, I know when he coasts and I know when he's not trying to an extent. And this is the gripe that people like Mike have is he's not Michael. Let's just not get it twisted. He's not Michael in the sense of his compete. He just isn't. You can say dominant, and I'll agree with you in the middle of his career, but he's not dominating now. Let's see. Fiercely saying Amon Thompson over Fred. Ridiculous. Wow. Sincerely rooting for Norm the Storm to finally be recognized. Yeah, it's crazy. And part of this perception war is done by ESPN. They don't like our championship and they really ignore it as much as possible. And any of these guys who had anything to do with it, they get discounted cents and not getting any kind of praise or awareness. And Fred is getting kind of buried in the shuffle in Houston for his importance, partly because Thompson's coming up. Sengun is the all-star this year. And they won't look at Fred. They don't want to talk about Fred. they can get away with not talking about Fred, they will. That's right. Mike saying, laugh out loud. Yeah, he has so much passion for defense. All right. Once again, I don't want to harp on this too much, guys. Let's see. Wayne saying, I noticed LeBron's absence and respect him more for missing this nonsense of American idolatry events. With all due respect, please don't mention DeMar. No, you worship him, but he's not an all-star. Yeah, but what my point was, Wayne, is that players like DeMar that work their ass off, players like Siakam, guys that we know go all out and they're never half-assing anything, are the kind of guys that should be an all-star game because they would make the game compete right. And in some ways, guys that are all-stars like James Harden, sure, they may have the stats as a player, but that doesn't mean they're a good player. They don't win and they have obscene stats, but they shouldn't necessarily be at the all-star game either because they don't compete all out. What I'm saying is you get the best players that average about 20 points and they're all out players. And then you have a competitive all-star game. You maybe figure out who the culprits are, like Nikola, LeBron, maybe Kevin Durant, very much a lazy player in the all-star games for a couple of years now. And you blacklist them. You say, you know what? You didn't take your opportunity to be an all-star last year seriously. You ran around and you didn't do things right. And we didn't really see a competitive level from you. Well, you don't play this year or you don't even make the team. That's what I'm saying. The coaches have more power in this than they should. They should be able to say, you know, Nikola, you're on my team, but I'm not playing you because you don't take the all-star game seriously. So you're going to sit on the bench. You're an all-star. You got the accolade, but you're not going to play in the game. And reward guys that have the work ethic like DeMar. I agree with you, Wayne. He's not an all-star per se, but he's been an all-star in the past. And he carries himself like an all-star professionally. And that's a little bit different. That's what I would say right there. Mike's saying, Bryce, it's been 10 years of selective defense. I don't care about now. The damage is done. All right. You guys, you're going too much at this. Leave the piece of meat on the ground. Stop ripping into it like dogs. Seriously. And I'm not saying Bryce is a piece of meat. I'm just saying the topic is. You guys got to stop chewing on the piece of meat right here. I don't want to do it. I want to do it. And Bryce, thank you for retracting your message and being the bigger person. Stargate saying it's the fans' fault as well, Lex. They fall for the Jedi mind tricks too easily. Look at how some of our fans of our team are obsessed with tanking for another Keith Van Horn. There's conditioning by the media in some ways. There's brainwashing. It's brainwashing politically. There's brainwashing about the overimportance of the three-point shot in the NBA and scoring is the only thing matters. You know, they do portray the game and present it in a certain way that creates the mindsets of the fans of the future. And in some ways, the advertising and the portrayal and the display of the game has not been very healthy. It's been toxic and not good for the league long-term wise. That's why they're in a crisis place with the All-Star weekend and this kind of stuff. And honestly, they could have fixed it if they just let it be a pure competition instead of script writing it the way they did last night. They had it right. The format is good. It's just that they shouldn't have made it the way they figured it out. I wanted to see a real competition at the end. And it's obvious that it was tinkered with to allow for the outcome they wanted. So let's see. Monique is here. Good to see Superfan Mo. Good morning, Raptor Free crew. All-Star game was meh. Yeah, it was started good. I thought that the competition was really great early in the first couple games, but the last game really screwed it up. And that's when things felt fake. The last game felt really fake. And by then we were all tired and kind of exhausted from over and over again, like people have said, overindulgence in commercials and ad placement and celebrities coming out like Mr. Beast and all this other bullshit. Yeah. Randolph saying, Lex, I agree that the new format has not worked. As Green said, all the records set by those in the past, the new players now do not have the opportunity to challenge those records and make new ones. I agree with that part of his argument. And that's maybe the one thing I hate the most about the new format. But in some ways, like Charles said, you messed up the game. We need to fix it and at all costs because the game's in trouble otherwise. And if they went back to the old format, well, we're going to see the same exact piece of crap that we saw last year in Utah for the All-Star game. And that's the thing. They got to progress towards making it more competitive. But I completely agree about this point that Draymond had. This is the only one I agreed with, is the transfer of the historic records of the All-Star game do not match up with this format. And kind of looking at comparisons or even adding up the totals for All-Star points, you know, newer players may not get more scoring points. Well, how do you fix this a little bit better? The rosters aren't that big. Maybe you accumulate the 2 games that they play with the total points. So in that case, Steph Curry scored 20 points yesterday. So you add it all up. Maybe with the point increase that Trevor has suggested to make it 50, maybe that allows for even more points, or maybe it's somewhere in between 50 and 100. So there's actually some sort of allowance for a amount of scoring that could be somewhat equitable to past All-Star games in reference of statistics over time. But this is the only thing I agreed about his argument with it. And I don't think it's because the format doesn't work. I think it's the format will work with tweaking of allowing the proportion of the points in the All-Star game that they're doing now to be more reflective of the possibilities of the old format with across like comparison. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So if they increase it to 50 or 70 or maybe 60, then there's more opportunities for more points to be accumulated in these All-Star games, and the numbers will line up more with the past games. I think the competitiveness of the tournament is just so crucial for them to actually play all out. And that's why they need this format. These guys won't play if it's just a regular game, two teams against each other. They'll get lazy and they'll degenerate to what they've been doing the last few years. So in some ways, they really do need that carrot in front of them like a donkey to get going, that motivation to compete. Bryce is saying, yeah, I'm sorry, making personal attacks. I'm not that kind of person. Bryce, you're being the bigger person. And Kaz, I'm kind of disappointed that you're coming after him like that. Because it's in some ways it's not necessary, guys. I love Bryce Lawson. Bryce Lawson has been a great Raptor freak for years now. And you know what? We've gone up and down. In some ways, he's defended LeBron in here consistently. So in some ways, this is nothing new from him. And in some ways, I respect that he is a fan of his and that he stands for him to an extent also. So, yeah. Cass saying, same people are on drugs, straight class fam, but you walk with Jesus, though. I don't know who's on drugs, and it doesn't matter. Who cares? I mean, I will say this also. Sticks and stones will break my bones. Obviously, in some ways, the things you're saying to Bryce aren't affecting him because in some ways, he's a well-adjusted young man, and insults aren't going to affect him. Some people get upset about people saying things about them. Well, at a certain point, you just got to be, you know what? Your opinion is your opinion, and you can think whatever you want about me. I don't care. So, and that's where I'm at a lot with my life. Trust me. I don't care what people think. And well, in this case, Bryce probably doesn't care that you guys are down on him for his loving LeBron. And maybe Mike doesn't really care about that comment either. I don't know. I don't know. Fiercely saying, last comment, any news from Coach Pop? What's his medical condition like? He's been away for close to 2 months, I believe. Yeah, he's been away for a while. He had a stroke. He's doing better. He's had a couple of public statements since. And, he's just working on life, being okay in life and his health. And he can't worry about the Spurs right now. So Mitch Johnson will continue to coach that team. We don't know if Pop will ever be able to return from this, to be able to come back and take the job back. It may very well be that he's got to be done now. Sadly, he's not a young guy. He's not a young guy at all. And having a stroke is a scary medical incident. And he's got to focus all that on that. He cannot even get half into trying to help the Spurs totally because it may be too time-consuming and energy-taking from him what he needs to do to heal. But I've heard that he's had public speeches. He's had comments, and he's better. He's recovering, and he's doing better. But he hasn't returned yet. He's not in charge there yet. Mike's saying, I don't know. My point is the All-Star game is trash from the top. Players not taking it seriously. It's not about the format. It's the players, in my opinion. I believe Braun's attitude is a prime example. Nothing personal against anyone. I think this is a fair statement by Mike. I think that once again, under LeBron's generation's watch, they let a lot of things about the NBA's product quality go to shit. Whether it's just the idea of like dominance, like Bryce is saying, that LeBron dominated, he made it so boring. Whether it's the Golden State Warriors dominated, and they made it so boring. There's all kinds of different culprits. But the very apparent, visible one is the All-Star game and how much of a sham it is. And that's why this is so important to do better on. And Adam Silver's really committed to do better on this going forward. Yeah, let's see. Mike's saying it's fine. He cares. He cares. Hang on. I don't even know what was said there. Yeah. Hang on. La, 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 la. Okay, I see Mo's got another cut here. Okay, here we are. Nothing personal against anyone. I like that. It's fine. He cares about Braun a lot. Clearly, I get it from his fans a lot. I'm glad that we haven't had the Bronny show all year long, that it went away like it should have. Like, it shouldn't have been so hyped up at the beginning of the year. It's just disservice to Bronny James. And honestly, it wasn't warranted. It wasn't warranted other than the connections to his dad. And in some ways, I'm glad this hasn't been just the Bronny season where he's just absolutely shoved down our throats. I thought that was what was going to happen. He didn't even play in any of these all-star things. Like, he wasn't even in the G League Up Next game. So in some ways, he isn't getting things handed to him. So I'm happy about that. That's the reality. Monique's giving my W Stream W vibes. Go Raptors for life. Keep at it always, Lex. I appreciate you, Mo. And people love your picture, putting it up in the community tab, the half Mo, half amazing picture. Y'all check it out. It's an amazing picture of Mo doing the Vince Carter signature dunk. It looks so cool. Mike saying the league owned Charlotte when Stern vetoed that CP trade. Owners have the control to trade any player they want. Silver isn't above the owners. All right, I'm not going to go on with this. I'm not going to argue. The personal attacks are wild for giving opinions with reasons. Yeah, we want to keep a bit of a level of maturity. We don't want to go in the direction of Zazu Spaces and other places. We want to try and do that. I know we're not always good at it, and that's fine. And I know I'm part of that too. I know I can get crazy. Oh, for sure. Stargate saying bronze sexuals always be running around, lathering honey all over each other, twerking it up all over the place, just running amok. Dreamers, bro. Okay, that's a weird comment. Anyway, we'll just keep going. Blackhawk saying Doug Smith doesn't know shit. He's a relic of a reporter with no teeth. That's a mean attack to him in some ways. Fiercely said, last comments for real at my end. Thank you for a clarification, Lex, in reference to LeBron's alleged selfishness. I just want to keep the record straight. Nothing's known for sure. But yes, definitely he could have stepped aside earlier if he knew and given a spot to somebody else. Yeah. Fiercely saying, playing devil's advocate, Giannis had a replacement, was still able to attend the event. I'm sure LeBron could have had the same opportunity if he was told he was injured. That's exactly true. Just because you say you're injured doesn't mean you're not an all-star. You keep it still. So that's why we're saying he's selfish if he did know this, because he could have came and been a part of the event and got the all-star nod added to his record, but somebody else could have played in his place and had the opportunity to. And that's what happened with Giannis. Yeah. Cool Cat saying, Lex, her family happy you took care of Adriana, sign of a great man. Well, yeah, I mean, I had an obligation to keep her safe in a snowstorm yesterday, and that's what I did. I told them I would, and I did. Stargate saying, Raps' next 4 games are the Heat, the Suns, and Celtics at home, and then the Pacers on the road. Yeah, these games are a little more difficult still, closing out on February, but once we hit March, it's, oh my gosh, it's so easy. It's like the hardest games for the rest of the season are immediately after All-Star, and then it's really easy for the rest of the year. Yeah, that Boston game, the Suns game, and even the Pacers game, although we played the Pacers really well this year. The Heat will be interesting with their new look and all the changes they did with the trades, Andrew Wiggins being there now. It'll be very interesting to see how the Heat are doing. It looked like Tyler Hero's hot from the weekend that he had this weekend, though. And he's feeling real good from being 3-point shootout champion and also playing pretty good in the All-Star game last night. Yeah. Kaz has got Pierre Polivera as a clown. That's very true right there. That is very, very true. And trust me, they will sell us out to the MAGA if they get the chance. We cannot afford any political right parties up here right now because they is going in the wrong direction with fascism, and we do not want to go in the direction of the States. Canada, you want to stay Canada? We can't do this. We really can't vote for people like Polivera because they will make a deal behind closed doors. Doug Ford will do the same. Don't listen to these ads that are coming out. They're saying, oh, we need a strong person to stand up to America right now. It's not Doug Ford. Trust me. He's a businessman. And he is a businessman just like Trump is. And anything that's self-serving that he can make money off of, he will sell people out. He sells his own mother out to make a buck. He sold out Ontario Place. He sold out the Science Center. He tried to sell our green belt behind our backs, illegally behind our backs. You don't think he'll sell us out to MAGA? You're crazy. So reject Doug Ford, reject Pierre Polivera. And I'm telling you, strategically vote for either NDP or Liberals, depending on where your riding is and who has the better chance to make a dent into them. I don't really want to vote for the Liberals, but I will vote for the Liberals in this provincial election because in my riding, they have the best chance. But normally I'm an NDP, and I very much side with the Orange Party. But in this case, I'm going to strategically vote to stop the right-wing extremism on this continent that is growing south of us. Because don't get it twisted. The blue party in Canada is not going to help us in this situation with Trump. They will sell us out, and we're more likely to become the state because of those motherfuckers. Trust me. Trust me. Yeah, Cool Cat saying Wembanyama is being groomed to be the face of the league. They tried John Morant and Anthony Edwards, but their personal life impacts their marketing campaign. Yeah, that's part of it too. You know, you really want the role model, the guy that you can really be like that. Charles wasn't totally that when he's younger, but in some ways he was also. And then Michael, you know, Larry, Magic, these are all marketable stars. They're easy to get behind because they're great people and they're very easy to like kind of market in a good way. Well, John Morant's going to go out and get charges. Anthony Edwards going to say something stupid on social media and look bad for it. That's not a good spokesperson in some ways. And trying to make golden boys for the league and faces the league artificially is not good. You should let it naturally happen the way it's supposed to. And if you did, you'd find that your faces of the league going to be Victor Wembanyama, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Scotty Barnes. Those are the natural faces that are naturally good faces for the league coming up, is what I'm saying. Bryce is saying it's all love the Cats. I love that. I'm going to give Bryce a big, huge dunk. In fact, I'm going to give him a double dunk for today because I feel like he's taken a lot of grief today and he didn't deserve it. So 2 dunks for you, Bryce. You're going up. You doubled your point score to 12. For being the bigger person right now. And you guys, listen, you guys have your opinions too. And I'm not just totally siding with Bryce. In some ways, I don't know what LeBron's timeline was. And you guys may be very well right that he was selfish for not stepping out sooner. Yeah, and Kaz is saying, I respect you, Bryce. I'll let myself get out of line. I apologize. But you know what? I'm going to give a double dunk to Kaz also for this turn of events right here too. This is exactly what I want from you guys. Because seriously, this world they're trying to divide us more and more every day. And we have to have the action of being able to come back and be okay with each other. Because if we don't, they're going to destroy us all. They're very disgusting people. And us divided, it's easier to deal with. You guys are exactly the same place. You were at 6, and now you're both at 12. 2 dunks for Kaz also for turning the other cheek and coming around like this. I love that. And there's Mike, too, saying real ball fans debate a little. It's all love. He's exactly right. Salute to you guys. Salute to you, Bryce. Salute to you. And the heart. Yeah. Smooth saying, well, no Fred VanVleet. Houston sucks. They don't take the steps they took. His leadership by example made that team what it is. Yeah. Him and Dylan Brooks and a little bit of Jeff Green in there too. And maybe even a little bit of Steven Adams, but Fred mostly. Yeah. Yeah. And their record since he's been hurt absolutely shows his importance. In fact, we should have beat them when we played them last time. Smooth saying MA had a choice. Bring back James Harden or Fred. He opted for Fred. Exactly. And who's the all-star at the weekend? Who shouldn't be there? And maybe the other guy should. That's exactly right. Smooth saying if Houston's smart, they pick up Fred's option. Don't let him walk. Totally. And they probably will. Trevor saying God says when you feel like trouble is coming, and it will come, if you believe in me, I did not give you a spirit to be afraid. I give you a spirit to overcome because trouble will pass. I love that so much. I need this kind of guidance and spirituality right now. And this word of wisdom from Trevor late in the stream right now is fantastic. Trevor, I'm going to give you a dunk for this one. Because honestly, we have to have faith in the God above that they're going to be looking out for us to get us through what other crazy times we got ahead of us. Just trust in God's plan and understand that in the end, it's all going to work out. As he says, the meek shall inherit the earth. And the people that are trying to run it right now are not meek. So we're going to come around and get that back, the meek people. Because we need to. We need to. Mike's saying scared to compete equals too cool to fail. Too much money to lose from storytelling and selling and hyping. I think in some ways Mike's right. It's part of the reason why the big stars shy away from the dunk competition because there's too much to lose in failing in that very, very high profile setting with so many eyes on you. Yeah, John Collins is a cautionary tale with his crashed plane from years ago. And that's part of it. It's like in some ways, there's only one winner out of the people that go into it. There's going to be more losers. And in some ways, you know, if Kobe Bryant didn't want the smoke from Vince Carter, well, some of these people don't want the smoke from the competition because they know it can hurt their brand and their bottom line with how much money they make. So that totally makes sense right there in relation to the dunk competition specifically a lot. Blackhawk saying at Cool Cat, they will eventually go to SGA for being the face of the league because he has a better spoken than Ant-Man. Yeah. You know, he acknowledged that this weekend. He said, I'm really happy that they're starting to lean into me being more of a face of the league. And he feels it. He felt it this weekend. and rightfully so. I was saying, well, maybe you're going to be MVP of the league this year. Maybe you'll be finals MVP. Maybe you'll be MVP of the All-Star game. I was kind of hoping for that last night, honestly. Wayne saying, my whining and critique is based on the events are more of a cabaret show than a game that's entertaining. We know a sham product, and these activities are just basically overselling of the game. I'm really like, I agree with this. I feel like there should be boundaries. Just like Jack Armstrong has been critical of the in-season tournament for being all in the middle of the season and all confusing. When are the in-season games and when's a regular season game? Well, in some ways, the boundaries, just like out in the garden, you want to have a line where your garden is and where the wild is. Well, we need a boundary between the competitive all-star game and all the shenanigans otherwise that Wayne is talking about, all the cabaret show, as he put it, which is absolutely apropos. He's right. In some ways, maybe you guys have a pre-all-star game show where you put all the concerts and all the fun in, or maybe you have a celebration show after the game is over and you put the game on earlier and people can stay to watch the big concerts and the Mr. Beast 3-point shootout. Maybe you split it on both sides. Maybe you have one event in between each of the events, but you're not taking any in between of the events. And it's very delineated that this is the time when Team Chuck's playing Team Kenny, and there ain't going to be no interruption and no 10, 15-minute interlude with Kevin Hart standing in the middle court talking to everybody while the players are standing in the background, kind of like, I would like to start playing again. What the fuck is going on right now? Kevin Hart's over there doing a comedy routine, and honestly, I'm warmed up, and we're in the middle of the game, and I have competitive juices going, and they're going to lessen the seriousness of it by doing this cabaret show that Wayne has said. He's exactly right. He's getting a dunk for this, and this is one of my biggest gripes about last night, too, is that they needed to delineate the time for this is for this, and the fact that y'all put a TNT crew honoring in the middle of a halftime of the All-Star game like that is a disservice not only to the game and the competition the way I just talked, but also to the honoring of those guys sandwiching it in the middle of an All-Star game like that. That is not right, Adam Silver. Charles Barkley, Kenny the Jet Smith, Ernie Johnson, and Shaquille O'Neal are icons, and they deserve it better than you just sandwiching it in to the game like it's a Mr. Beast shooter-around competition. They deserve better than that. They deserve their whole hour and banquet of their own special that's not even having to do with the All-Star game for their contributions to the NBA. And that's how I feel about it there. Carlos saying, same here, Lex. I'm NDP all the way, but in my writing, it has to be liberal. One silver lining about the Orange Man is Canada seems to be waking up, according to the polls. Mark Carney beats DP. I hope this is true. Seriously, we cannot be just blindly following the steps of the United States anymore. You can see where those steps are going right now. And even like the most intelligent, the political PC people that are normally PC, you've got to be worried about this. And if you really care about patriotism for Canada and Canada being Canada, you can't be on party lines right now. I'm telling you, that is the wrong side. And the right-wing movement around the world is happening in Europe also, and it's very disgusting. We have to realize Elon bought Twitter, and he's utilizing Twitter to very much inundate and brainwash people with the feed, with the information he wants y'all to get. And that'll sewer the hell out of people like Justin Trudeau, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and prop up every single person he wants you to vote for. And, well, the tell of who you should not vote for is who is Elon promoting. It's that simple. Well, who does Elon Musk endorse in Germany? The Nazis. Don't vote for the Nazis. Who does Elon Musk endorse in Canada? PP, Pierre Poilievre. So don't vote for him. If you want to be a bootlicker for Tesla, man, and his swastikars, you go ahead and bootlick and vote for the blue party here in Canada now. You might as well be MAGA when you do that, as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, Carlo is going to be just like me, and we're going to strategically vote in the way that where our vote is going to matter most, anything but PC. If the government in this country is going to be set up with these party system where there's one conservative group and all the rest of them are going to be left leaning, well, we have to strategically vote because the way the pie is sliced. I wish there was more political conservative parties that would divvy up their slice of the pie more. It's part of the racket, honestly. So, yeah, in some ways, if we could consolidate NDP with a liberal party, we'd be the majority party and we'd be kicking ass all over the place. That's part of the scam of Canadian politics. So we got to strategically vote like Carlo's going to do, just like I am. Yeah. Kaz saying, don't we all just wish Jack Layton was still the leader of the NDP? I would be with that. I love Jagmeet. I have no problem with Jagmeet. I think Jagmeet, in some ways, once again, he's going to get sewered by people. Racist people are going to naturally not like him. And, he's going to get sewered by the other side, and all of his warts are going to be pointed out. But there's nothing wrong with Jagmeet Singh. He's actually a very, very excellent, intelligent leader and a very, very good man. And, that's the thing. Even Justin's not a bad guy, but they sewered the hell out of him, and they made him so unpopular by paying for it and just inundating people with negative things about him. They really keyed off of the pandemic and made people feel like Justin tried to control your life by telling you had to make a shot. And that's how they really used it as a trigger for a lot of people to go against him. Well, intelligent people understand science, and vaccines work. And this is one of the scary things about the states is they're taking back all of these healthcare things, and including immunization for measles. Well, there's going to be measles outbreaks in the states, and people are going to die unnecessariness because of Elon's cutting of the budget. This is some Darwinist shit that's going to be going on down there. They're going to take away safeguards for food, safeguards for aviation. Well, unnecessary deaths are going to happen, and it's going to be really sad. People in my field of work, demography, the study of mortality, they're going to have a field day figuring out how death rates rose in all kinds of areas because of the irresponsibleness of the current administration that just took over in the United States. The stats will all be there, and they'll tell a very stark story of the irresponsibleness of a leader who's not taking care of his people, which in some ways was a message in this chat already from one of the words of wisdom right there. Yeah, I miss Jack Layton too, man. He was a great, great man. Blackhawk saying, take all of these draft picks with a lot of skepticism as they look good playing against smaller bodies. NBA is different, bigger and more skilled bodies. Yeah, I love that you guys are calling Cooper Flagg Keith Van Horn, because honestly, that could happen. That could honestly happen. Keith Van Horn didn't have a horrible career, but he was nothing like what he was hyped up to come into the league. And in some ways, yeah, he is a bust for what he could have been. But he did play some solid years for the Nets in different places. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not putting any of my eggs in a basket with any of the draft picks for sure. They're just a home run. Everybody can buy into Cooper Flagg like this. But what were they saying about Reed Sheppard last year? And look at him now. That's what I'm saying. They had all kinds of crazy ideas about Reed Sheppard in the NBA and him being a top 5 pick and all this crazy stuff. No, y'all were wrong. Reed Sheppard is not all that. And from what I've seen in the time I've seen him in G League and on the Rockets, nope. No, he's not all that. Cool Cat saying Doug Ford has hired U.S. private healthcare companies who charge way higher prices, taking our tax dollars. We have to pay out of pocket more and more for healthcare. Be woke means be aware. This is what I'm saying. The right-wing parties want to privatize everything and take away public services. This is exactly what Elon's doing. He's taking away all the public monies that serve the people. The tax money that's paid in is supposed to come back to the people in services like healthcare, education, stuff like that. He's cutting it all. And where's that money going to go? They're going to keep it. They're going to enrich themselves. That's the disgusting thing. And don't think that Doug Ford's not doing the same action here. All the money that Canadian taxpayers pay towards healthcare, well, he's saying he's saving the budget and he's saving money. Bullshit. You're holding our money that we already paid for our services and holding it hostage for yourself. And I don't even trust what you're doing with that money. In fact, you could be siphoning some of that money towards your own cronies or even yourself. And this is just the damn truth. We need to know this also, that the right-wing extremists right now hate people and they want to take away public services. There's a war on liberalism and woke by Elon, and he hates any kind of social services that help anybody, any kind of social nets that help save people, homeless, or feeding people that are poor. He wants to cut all that because he's cold and heartless, and he doesn't mind if people die. He doesn't mind at all. He's a cruel, sick individual. And honestly, if somebody took him out, I'd be very happy. Let's just put it that way. Let's see. Wayne saying 4 games, 3 of those teams have played and beaten them. Love our talent pool. Hope Jakob is better to go on a good string of games to gel and gather winning momentum. I'm all about this too. Hopefully Yak can be mostly healed when we get back to action. It's Caribbean night. It's going to be one of the first games back. I know Adriana's going to that game with her friend Wendy. Yeah, it's going to be it's always a good time for Caribbean night when they have that game annually. I know Mose will be at that game also. It's one you pencil in. You're always happy to go to. But hopefully Jakob can feel the vibes and be at that game playing on the court. That'd be awesome. Carlos saying, I'm in the same way now, Lex. I used to lean agnostic, but all these shit with Orange Man got me seeking guidance from the creator. Yeah, and we're going to do this the right way. I really like the campaign I'm seeing in some places about what the real Jesus would do and who he is. And people are co-opting Jesus and saying Jesus would do this, Jesus would do that. No, Jesus would feed the poor, Elon. Jesus would house the homeless. Jesus would take care of his neighbor and not be afraid of them and shun them and treat them like their enemies. Yeah, there's nothing Jesus-like by some of the right-wing Christians that are touting that they're Christians. They are not. They are shim men. They're like televangelists on the TV that just want your money, and they don't actually believe in the ideals of Christ. And that's what I'm saying. We're going to come to this now. Let's do it the right way, Carlo, and do it the way that real Christians are, and actually have the real ideals of Christianity that are for everybody and humanity and love and being there for people and being a good neighbor and stuff like that. That's the difference right there. Yeah, Blackhawk saying being woke means not being asleep, not going to get along, nose D's through life. There you go. Be aware of what's going on and be aware of it. Be woke to it. It's not necessarily progressive ideals. It's about knowing the scam that's going on and not being dumb to it. Exactly. There you go. There you go. Carlos saying I was rewatching the episode where you ape shit on Basketball Rewind. It was amazing, Lex. Check this. I just listen. I'm sick of people sullying Messiah and Bobby for no reason. There's no reason to do this. And I'm very clear about it. And in some ways, I felt it was necessary as an example. As far as like, look, this is something these guys have egregiously been doing for years now. And well, I finally let them have it for it. And I appreciate that you appreciated that. That's why I don't feel bad about this. You know, Kenyon's probably really pissed at me. You think this and this and this. But listen, I said what I had to say. And that's all it is. And that's that. In some ways, I'm very happy I said it because I feel like somebody needed to. And that's what I'm saying right there. Mike said, I think the personal attacks are the issue in politics too. Demonizing any person is wrong, in my opinion. People do bad actions, but aren't rotten on everything. There's a level of humanity still speaking to it. Will change more minds, in my opinion. I'll agree with this, Mike, but you've got to understand there is a side that is very evil right now. And in some ways, the part of the argument I had with you last week when you were not your proper self was that you can't equalize the two parties right now. They're very, very different. And I've been saying this for a couple of years now. One party wants right-wing fascism and to control your lives, to burn books, to prosecute trans people, to collect a lot of immigrant people and put them in camps. And that is not equal to the side of the other side. That is wrong. And that party needs to be denounced and insulted and put down and taken out because there's not an equal footing here. It may be in the age of Gore and Bush that there was a little bit of their kind of equal and the same, but that has completely changed in the last 20 years. And you cannot equalize them and say we need to give equal treatment to both sides. Demonizing Elon Musk and Donald Trump is absolutely necessary right now. They have exposed themselves as Nazis, and Nazis get what Nazis get, Mike. And that's something we learned from World War II. And anybody that understands that Nazis need to be stopped understands from the history of the past. And if we don't nip it in the bud sooner, it's going to get uglier as we go. So that's what I'm saying. We cannot afford to equalize the two sides because there's very much an evil side that's very, very evil. And there's another side that's just trying for sanity and normalcy and just where we're going with progress. One side's very anti-progress and is about hate and division. That's what we have to understand. So if I am hating on them, don't come at me with this action and say, no, you should be nicer to Trump or anything. And I'm not saying you're doing that. No, these people are very evil and they need to be treated exactly for what they are. If we're soft and say, no, we need an equal playing field between the two parties and stuff. No. These are criminals. January 6th was criminal, and everything he's done since he's taken office has been criminal, and there are people keeping track, and hopefully they're going to come around and pay for their crimes at some point. That is going to be the chest of the checks and balances. The next part is the Supreme Court just going to carte blanche, write off everything and allow Trump to do whatever the fuck he wants? Well, they have to check his power at some point. If they don't, well, it's a sham Supreme Court. It's not actually doing its job in the branches of the government of the United States. And that's it right there. Yeah. Neil's saying the dunk contest is about tricks nowadays instead of power and agility. If stars want to get the dunk contest back, then show the power. I think Jackson was trying to do that, but too much power with not enough finesse to actually get the ball to go in the hoop because he wasn't controlled enough. Yeah, I mean, I could see that. The perfect equivalent, a perfect equalization of power and finesse, Vince Carter. Vince Carter. And that's why he was so good at it. Michael Jordan, another one. Dominique, very, very graceful and beautiful to see in the air, but also a very powerful two-handed dunker. Very, very powerful. Let's see. Carlos saying, McClung got me shouting on Saturday, though. Those dunks were creative as fuck. They were okay. In some ways, they're kind of a variation of what he's already been doing. And that's why I want to see him totally do a different kind of dunk, like a finesse dunk more than a jump over a big, tall guy dunk. Like, I want to see him do something kind of completely different if he comes back next year. It'd be interesting. Let's see. I expect those dunks from McClung. Tricks are his thing. That's why the other guys should not have tried to trick him, get back to power and grace. You know, Steph Castle had a very, very unique dunk that I had never seen. There were two of them in particular. It was that bounce one, the one through the net, and that one where he kind of grabbed it and brought it and put it in that way. Those were very different dunks. And some people very much think that Castle should have won. Some people should have thought that. Yeah. Stargate saying, yes, Van Horn wasn't a bust, but he was nowhere near a franchise-altering generational player like he was kind of advertised, which is what the point is here. Yeah. Cooper Flagg is being hyped as such, and his numbers aren't even better than Van Horn or Danny Ferry. Wow. Danny Ferry is another good example of this. He was very hyped, partly because of his dad, Bob, who was the GM at the time in some ways. So, yeah, you know, Danny Ferry was complete bust. Complete bust. Trevor's saying, if you guys watch Kobe Bryant making a legend, it'll make you sad. Yeah, and they have that whole Celtics thing that's coming out that Bill Simmons produced that they kept advertising around it. In some ways, I like seeing Chief and Larry and some of the old Celtics. But yeah, the new Celtics and talking about that and the legacy and all that, it is what it is. I'm a hater. My saying best part of the All-Star weekend was done by a G Leaguer and Rising Star. The All-Stars were mid. You're going to say Mac McClung and the Rising Stars like, Ryan Dunn, Victor Wembanyama. Yeah, I mean, who were the winners this weekend? Mike McClung. I feel like Steph Castle had a very successful weekend, winning the MVP of the Rising Stars Challenge and really getting second in the dunk competition. So Stephon Castle had a very successful weekend, in my opinion. So, if people had fun, they had a good weekend. Steph Curry, I guess, had a good weekend since he's the MVP of the All-Star game. All right, we're at the end of the chat. Let me go ahead and go through my tabs real quick. Let's see if they're saying anything on the Blue Skies that's interesting other than Doug Smith complaining. I think that's it. Yeah, there's nothing there. Let's see. Do you guys want a Raptors Reddit reaction? Here we go. Let's see. What are they saying on Raptors Reddit right now? And I haven't looked at it, so I'm not pre-planning it. They're saying, oh, thank God the All-Star game wasn't in Toronto this year. Yes, very true. Scotty Barnes, 4th overall draft pick. RJ Barrett, 3rd overall draft pick. Brandon Ingram, 2nd overall draft pick. We're missing one thing. And I guess they're alluding that they want to capture the flag. And then they've got a picture of the Narcos guy on here, and they've got this listed as a shit post. And he's waiting. It's Narcos waiting in that little meme where he's sitting on the little chair outside where he's looking like he's sad. And he says, waiting for the Raptors tank to resume. All right, Manure, whoever's on Raptors Reddit named Manure M, you're an idiot. Stank Nation, fuck you, is what I'm saying. You're waiting for the tank to return? Why even watch then, bro? Why don't you just not watch the rest of the season if you're like that? So, yeah, there's my Raptors Reddit reaction for today. Stupid stuff on there, obviously. Talking about the weather and talking about tanking, obviously. All right, here we go. Here's the card of the day, guys. Let's see who can get the classic card of the day. First person to write the full name answer get the Raptor Freak trivia points for today. This is a Pacer. This is a Pacer that is fairly well known. This is not an obscure Pacer. So this may be somebody that somebody can recognize right away and get. I'll bring it in as close as possible. It seems that helps you guys when I do that. So who is that? Does anybody know which Pacer that is? There we go. Reggie did know it. I figured Reggie would. It's Vern Fleming. Vern Fleming was the point guard for the Indiana Pacers who ran with Reggie Miller early in his career before Mark Jackson came there and took over the Pacers point guard duties. There's a good picture of Vern Fleming right there. He looks a little bit like Tyrese Halliburton a little bit. He could be Tyrese Halliburton's dad, maybe. Yeah, Vern Fleming. Very Fleming. He's very Fleming. Yes. Okay, so Smoot's going to get it. We're going to give him 150 for this one because it is a classic one, and he isn't totally like a very well-known NBA star from the past. So I'm going to give him 150 for today. Good job, Smooth Brown. Man, the king of the classic card. Always killing it on that for sure. No birthdays today, guys. We'll start the fantasy league up again very soon when action resumes for the NBA. And we'll have our fantasy games. So keep up on your teams and stuff. I believe I'm playing Cass right now. No, I'm playing Duke, Jason Dukes, and I'm up 4-3 right now in our matchup. But those games will be starting up again. I appreciate everybody watching me this morning. The All-Star weekend was better than the last 2 years. I will say that, Adam Silver. And I don't think that this way that you did it was bad. I think that it's just that you need to finish the execution in a truthful, honest way where pure competition is allowed to come out. And in some ways, y'all were kind of manipulating things. We could tell. And like I said, have compartments and delineation of sections of the programming for fun and for competition. It'll make things a lot more smoother, and it won't turn off some of people like there are in the stream that said, yeah, there's just too much commercial, too much extra bullshit, cabaret kind of crap. Why don't you focus on the game the most and stop distracting from it with all the bells and whistles? I think I could get behind that criticism too, as far as things. But I think that overall the format was good. It just needs tweaking, and maybe the scores should be a little higher so that the stats can recognize and be more like past All-Star game stats. Yeah, there you go. Mike's saying, Lex, you should check the what type of player deserves a Supermax. I tie it to Scotty and make it simpler to understand. Mike, I'm going to give you a plug right now. Y'all check out Logical Raptors Fanatic. He's putting out short little clips every couple of days, and they're on different subjects around the current NBA right now. And I think one of his clips that come out recently is about what kind of players in this league should be deserving of Supermax and what kind of players should not. And he's probably going to talk a lot about Luka and the situation with Dallas not deciding to invest in that. So yeah, definitely give a follow and subscribe to Logical Raptors Fanatic, another great Raptors related YouTube channel on here. And Cass, peace out, man. WStream, I appreciate you guys for coming full circle and meeting together and being a great example of agreeing to disagree and getting to a place where, you know what, we got past personal attacks and we're able to all be cool and right. And that's important, guys. That's important. It's not necessary to do personal attacks. In some ways, let's be mature and astute and allow for a conversation with a disagreement. But yeah, in some ways, it's okay. It's okay. I'm trying to be a really good example on how to be a better person in all kinds of different ways. And one of them is admit when you're wrong, and also, showing an example of, like, if you are wrong, coming back and correcting yourself and making it right. And that kind of stuff. Because some people in this world are doing things that are very wrong and they're not getting any trouble for it. And they don't have to come back and do that action, which is so necessary to teach people in their lives, is that, yes, you have to make things that are wrong right if they are wrong. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching. I'll be back tomorrow. We're going to be doing Raptor Freak Tuesday trivia. First time in a long time where we're going to have questions and we're going to play it the old school way like y'all love doing. I know you're going to miss this, so don't miss out tomorrow. 9:30, we're going to be playing trivia, and you're going to want to play and get more Raptor Freak trivia points from the game tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe we'll see Amit Gaming come out of the woodwork just for a game of trivia tomorrow. We'll see if our champion, our current Raptor Freak champion, Amit Gaming, will return to the chat and try and compete in the Tuesday trivia tomorrow that I'm going to write up this afternoon and have ready for you guys tomorrow. All right, guys. Peace out. Thank you, guys. Let's go Raptors. Proud to be a Raptor fan. In Raptors Nation, let's go Tempo. Let's go 905. Let's go Team Canada. Let's go Raptors. All right, y'all. Have a great day. Be kind to each other and be the example that you want to see in the world. How about that? That's a good word of wisdom right there.